Out of control after drinking, I ended up with a sexy CEO as my wife. It was just a ridiculous encounter by chance, and you want me to take responsibility? A pure freshman, a sexy CEO, a fiery female assassin, and a seductive businesswoman. How could I possibly handle all of this? Chapter 1. Are you worthy? 7 bar. In the dim room, Lu Qingxue woke up. From the mirror on the ceiling, she saw herself lying naked on the messy bed, her graceful body in full view. Are you awake? Qin Huai, who was beside her, scratched his messy long hair, his thick eyebrows like swords slightly frowned. The traces left on the bed sheet told Qin Huai that it was Lu Qingxue's first time. Lu Qingxue did not respond. She slowly got up, found the dress that fell on the ground, and slowly put it on in front of Qin Huai. Qin Huai opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. That. What? Do you want to continue? Lu Qingxue paused in pulling the shoulder strap, turned around and looked at Qin Huai, and pulled the shoulder strap down again, revealing her white and snowy shoulders, and said expressionlessly, "Come on." Qin Huai's breathing stagnated. He could not see any light in Lu Qingxue's eyes. As dim as a pool of stagnant water. That's not what I meant. Qin Huai wanted to explain something, but Lu Qingxue was indifferent. She picked up her bag, stepped on her high heels, and turned to leave. Wait. If you need me, I can take responsibility for what happened last night. Heh. Lu Qingxue chuckled disdainfully. Take responsibility? Just you. What's wrong with me? The people who want to take responsibility for me, Lu Qingxue, are lined up from the east to the west of the city. Which one of them is not a rich and powerful second generation? You are a bartender, and you only make 5,000 yuan a month. What qualifications do you have to take responsibility for me? Lu Qingxue's eyes showed contempt and disgust, and she said very harshly, "Oh, are you thinking about marrying a rich and beautiful woman and reaching the peak of your life? Har har. Are you worthy of being a gigolo? It is important for people to know themselves. Don't you see what you are? I don't care about what happened last night. Just treat it as a dog bite. You don't think I am a very traditional woman, do you? If you want to use this to threaten me, I can only say that you think too much. A toad wants to eat swan meat. Just be your bartender honestly. I'm sorry, calling you a toad is flattering you. You are just a scum at the bottom of society, a rat in the sewer, a maggot in the toilet." Throwing down a series of vicious words, Lu Qingxue turned around and took a step. Every step made her grit her teeth in pain, but she didn't stop for a moment. At this moment, she just wanted to escape from this nightmare-like place. Qin Huai was stunned in the room for a long time, and laughed in anger. Yes, how could such a rich lady need the low-level scum in her eyes to be responsible? Recalling Lu Qingxue's dull eyes and those harsh and vicious words, Qin Huai lit a cigarette irritably and leaned against the window to puff out smoke. The sky at 5 in the morning was pale. The temperature was slightly cool. The street was cold and clear. A puff of cigarette mixed with cold air entered his lungs, and Qin Huai's drowsy head became much clearer. Suddenly, Qin Huai paused in smoking. He glanced inadvertently from the corner of his eyes and saw a person squatting in the corner next to the bar. It was Lu Qingxue. She buried her head in her knees, her shoulders trembling slightly. She looked particularly helpless. She's crying. Qin Huai's heart tightened. This woman is far from being as strong as she appears. She obviously cares about what happened last night, but she deliberately shows disdain in front of him. No. If she really didn't care, why would she say those vicious words? She was venting. Qin Huai just reacted, but he didn't know what to do. He was good at killing people. Comforting people, especially comforting a woman, was not taught in the training course. Time passed slowly as Lu Qingxue secretly shed tears and Qin Huai was at a loss. Until the burning cigarette butt burned his fingers, Qin Huai came back to his senses and his eyes sank. Several bad youths who had just finished an all-nighter at the internet cafe and had dyed their hair colorfully approached Lu Qingxue with ill intentions. "Beauty, why are you crying here alone? If you have any sad things, you can tell us, brothers." Lu Qingxue was startled and looked up subconsciously. That peerless face with pear blossoms in the rain was pitiful. Several bad youths were obviously stunned for a moment, with greed and evil in their eyes. A yellow-haired man reached out to touch Lu Qingxue's shoulder. "Go away!" Lu Qingxue shouted. "Don't be so fierce, beautiful lady. We want to comfort you." Let's go and find a place to talk. Don't touch me. Go away. Lu Qingxue screamed and struggled to escape, but was surrounded by several bad youths. Go away. Qin Huai jumped down from the window, using the second-floor balcony to cushion his fall, landed steadily, and then rushed over quickly. Without saying a word, he kicked away the yellow-haired man who was holding Lu Qingxue's arm and had an evil smile on his face. Then he knocked down the rest of them cleanly. When the bad youth screamed, Lu Qingxue, who was freed from restraints, rushed across the street like a headless fly. Ding! A black car happened to be coming. The driver was probably a little tired. Seeing someone suddenly rushing out, he had no time to brake and subconsciously honked the horn. Lu Qingxue was frightened by the horn. She looked sideways at the speeding car and froze in the middle of the road. Seeing the car enlarge rapidly in her pupils, her mind went blank. Am I going to die? The sharp brake sound rang out. The air was filled with the smell of burning. The moment the black car rushed over, Lu Qingxue felt dizzy and her ears were buzzing. However, the expected severe pain did not come, but the ground felt a little soft. Are you okay? A man's low voice sounded beside her ear. Lu Qingxue looked closely and found Qin Huai lying on the ground, and she was lying on Qin Huai's broad and thick chest. Their four eyes met, and the distance was so close that they could kiss each other. The warm breath from Qin Huai hit her face, which was a little itchy. Lu Qingxue's pupils were dilated, and she was a little dazed for a while. These eyes are pretty, she thought subconsciously in her heart. Qin Huai couldn't help but feel excited. The soft jade in his arms, their bodies fit tightly together. Unlike last night when he was drunk, he could now clearly feel Lu Qingxue's graceful and delicate body. How thrilling it was. Boom boom. In the black car parked not far away, the driver was still in shock. He looked out and saw that the two seemed to be fine, so he stepped on the accelerator and ran away. The roar of the engine made Lu Qingxue sober, and she quickly reached out to support Qin Huai's chest and tried to get up. But she had just brushed shoulders with the god of death, and her whole body was weak. Not only did she not get up, but she pulled away a little and then stuck tightly to him. The cherry-like rosy and plump lips were directly imprinted on Qin Huai's lips. The two of them widened their eyes at the same time. Qin Huai only felt that Lu Qingxue's lips were slightly cold, but smooth like jade. Unfortunately, before Qin Huai could continue to feel it, Lu Qingxue stood up with all her strength, turned around and walked away, staggering. Qin Huai chased after her and offered his hand to help her, but Lu Qingxue slapped him in the face. In fact, Qin Huai could have easily dodged it, but he didn't. Lu Qingxue's emotions were on the verge of collapse, so she had to let them out. Anyway, she didn't have much strength, so she just took it as a loving caress. Chapter 2, This Woman is Mine. After the event, Lu Qingxue immediately regretted it. With tears in her eyes, she glared at the man who had spent the entire night with her, and through gritted teeth, she said, "Who told you to touch me?" "I'm sorry." Qin Huai took a deep breath and, with a serious expression, said, "Lu Qingxue, I will take responsibility for what happened." Heh. A hopeless smile curled on Lu Qingxue's lips as she said sarcastically, "How do you plan to take responsibility?" "I'll marry you." Qin Huai looked at her tear-filled eyes, his tone solemn as he spoke slowly, "I will make sure you live a stable, wealthy, and carefree life. With your job as a bartender earning just a few thousand a month. You can't even afford one of my lipsticks." Lu Qingxue was agitated. "We come from completely different worlds. You really think that after one night, you can make me marry you? You scumbag, you're not worthy. Do you understand? I am worthy." Qin Huai's confidence surfaced as he responded, "I never thought about living off a woman. Honestly, with the size of the Lu family, I don't even take them seriously." Enough. Lu Qingxue screamed, cutting him off, her tears streaming down her face as she seethed with hatred. "Get out. Never show yourself to me again. If I ever see you again, I'll make you regret it." Her hands, pale as porcelain, trembled like claws as she finished her words. Qin Huai quickly noticed her shaking and, his gaze darkening, he said, "What do I need to do for you to believe me? I'll never believe you. Get lost. The farther, the better. Go." Lu Qingxue gasped for air, her voice full of pain. Qin Huai stepped forward decisively, pulling her into his arms. His right hand pressed against her head, holding her to his chest, while his left hand grabbed her wrist. In just 2 seconds, Qin Huai's eyes narrowed. Something was wrong with Lu Qingxue's body. Her heart rate and pulse were abnormal. "Let go of me. You bastard. Scum. You're worse than an animal. Let go of me." Lu Qingxue struggled violently, screaming and cursing. Seeing her growing more agitated, Qin Huai pressed his 2 fingers lightly onto her neck. Lu Qingxue immediately blacked out, her body going limp in his arms. With her in his hold, Qin Huai checked her pulse carefully, his brow furrowing deeper. It was certain Lu Qingxue had been poisoned, and it was a very tricky poison. But what kind of poison it was, he didn't yet know. After a moment of contemplation, Qin Huai retrieved an ornate car key embedded with purple gems from her purse. Pressing it lightly, the lights on a nearby red sports car flickered on, and the car doors opened like wings. Not bad for Lu Xian's precious daughter, she can even get a global limited edition Nova Series car to drive around. Qin Huai carefully lifted Lu Qingxue and carried her to the car. He gently placed her in the passenger seat and then drove off, the red sports car roaring to life. As he drove, Qin Huai furrowed his brow. With how much Lu Xian dotes on Lu Qingxue, it would be a huge challenge to marry her. Glancing at her sleeping form, her brows still furrowed in distress, with traces of tears on her face, Qin Huai muttered to himself, "Since this woman slept with me, I'll take responsibility, no matter what obstacles I have to face. This woman, she's mine." A dangerous glint flickered in his eyes. "If worse comes to worst, I'll just kill the entire Lu family. Then, no one will be able to stop me." 20 minutes later, the red sports car stopped in front of a regular residential complex. Qin Huai carried Lu Qingxue inside, to his rented apartment. After pulling back the curtains, the first rays of sunlight streamed in, casting a soft glow on Lu Qingxue's beautiful face. Qin Huai pulled out a medical kit from under the bed and, taking a blood collection device, gently sterilized her left index finger and pricked it. After collecting a blood sample, he placed the device in a collection bag and dialed a number. The phone quickly connected, but no one spoke, only mechanical beeping sounds could be heard. Qin Huai spoke, "Code 140627, alias, no night." After a brief pause, a mechanical voice replied, "Voice confirmation, code confirmed. Command code 7323111. Codes confirmed." After the response, the call was abruptly ended. Qin Huai deleted the call and set the phone down. He stretched and took a long drink from a bottle of water before heading to the kitchen to boil some water. Before the water could even come to a boil, there was a knock at the door. "Delivery." Qin Huai walked to the door and peered through the peephole. He saw no one outside. He knocked on the door in a special pattern. There was an immediate response from outside. Only then did Qin Huai open the door. A man in a motorcycle helmet and a yellow vest stood there. He looked completely ordinary, without any memorable features. "Your delivery. Enjoy your meal," the man said, handing over a takeaway bag. "Thanks." As Qin Huai reached for the bag, he slipped the blood collection bag into the delivery man's hands. Without a word, the man turned and left. After closing the door, Qin Huai placed the takeaway on the table, glancing at the food. He frowned and muttered, "Such a cheap meal." He tossed the food into the trash, then returned to the kitchen. A little while later, he came back with 2 bowls of steaming hot spicy noodles. By then, Lu Qingxue was beginning to wake up, her eyes unfocused. "You're awake," Qin Huai said casually. "Have some noodles to settle your stomach." Lu Qingxue stared for a while, surveying the rented apartment. Grabbing her bag, she tried to leave. "Eat first," Qin Huai said. "You drank a lot last night and were quite active. Your stomach is probably empty. If you don't eat, your stomach won't hold up. I never want to see you again." Lu Qingxue's eyes were filled with hatred. "You make me sick." "Then you'll have to eat before you leave." Qin Huai remained unfazed, eating his noodles. "If you don't eat, I won't let you leave." Lu Qingxue gritted her teeth in frustration. "Who do you think you are? Are you imprisoning me? Do you want to die? Say whatever you want. You're not leaving unless you eat this bowl of noodles. I'm in good health, and you felt it last night. I. When Qin Huai kept mentioning the events of the previous night, Lu Qingxue trembled with rage. "I'll make you eat." She stormed over, ready to flip the table. Qin Huai glanced at her and said, "I suggest you behave. This place is pretty secluded, and if you provoke me, I can easily do to you what I want. You won't get any help, no matter how much you scream." Her hand froze mid-air, a hint of fear crossing her eyes. "You bastard! Scum! Worse than an animal. Is that so?" Qin Huai slurped up some noodles and chewed slowly as he said, "You keep repeating those few insults. It's amusing. A rich girl like you should be more refined. Eat up, or I might just have to get rough with you again. I didn't have my fill last night." Chapter 3, Jump and I'll believe you. You. Lu Qingxue's teeth were practically grinding to pieces. But when she saw Qin Huai prepare to set down his chopsticks, her heart trembled, and she could only obediently sit down and pick up her chopsticks, slurping noodles in a manner that looked like she was ready to sacrifice herself. The first bite of noodles entered her mouth, and Lu Qingxue paused for a moment before quickly chewing. Without needing any more encouragement from Qin Huai, she picked up another bite, carelessly blowing on it to cool it down before putting it in her mouth. Slurp tilde. The sound of her slurping noodles was continuous. Her manner of eating was anything but graceful. Anyone who saw it would never guess she was a rich young lady, spoiled since childhood, accustomed to the finest delicacies. Before long, the entire bowl of noodles was gone, every last drop of soup included. She was sweating profusely as she finished. Qin Huai, seeing this, was about to boast about his accomplishment when suddenly, Lu Qingxue sniffed, and tears began to fall. "Why are you crying again?" Qin Huai was stunned. He had heard women were made of water, but he didn't expect them to be this watery. "None of your business." Lu Qingxue gritted her teeth and shot him a hateful glare before wiping her tears and standing up, intending to leave. "Go back and rest, don't think about anything. I'll come for you when I marry you," Qin Huai said. Lu Qingxue suddenly turned around. "What do you want from me?" Qin Huai replied, "I told you, I want to marry you, seriously." "Bastard! Are you trying to ruin me?" Qin Huai furrowed his brows. "I'm just keeping my promise. How does that ruin you? You earn a few thousand a month and live in a place like this, why should I marry you?" Lu Qingxue stared hard at him. "And I have no feelings for scum like you. Even if I have to marry a pig or a dog, I'll never marry you. Say it, how much do you want? Give me a number." Lu Qingxue took out her phone. "I don't want money, I just want you. 5 million, is that enough? Card number." "I said, I don't want money. 10 million. The hatred in Lu Qingxue's eyes was almost overwhelming. "Don't get too greedy. You'll never make 10 million in your life. Either give me your card number, or I'll go all out, and you won't get a penny." "Heh." Qin Huai sneered. His gaze turned colder. 10 million is nothing compared to the entire Lu family fortune. "You still want the Lu family fortune?" Lu Qingxue looked at him as though he were crazy. Her emotions were in turmoil, and out of the corner of her eye, she noticed the open window. Without a word, she rushed toward it. Qin Huai, quick as lightning, dashed over and caught her. "Crazy woman! What are you doing? Let go of me!" Lu Qingxue spoke decisively. "Even if I have to die, I won't let you succeed in your scheme." "What nonsense are you talking? What scheme?" Lu Qingxue sneered coldly. "I thought about it carefully, you've been plotting this all along, haven't you? From 3 months ago, you started getting close to me, and everything that happened last night was all part of your plan." Qin Huai was speechless. How many web novels had this woman read to come up with such a theory? "Last night, I kept drinking the alcohol you mixed. If you didn't put something in it, how could anything have happened between us? Using such despicable methods to get me, and then trying to get my family's wealth, how deluded you are. Today, only one of us can live, either you die, or I die. I will never let you succeed." Looking at Lu Qingxue's logical analysis, Qin Huai suddenly roared, "Lu Qingxue!" Lu Qingxue was stunned by his sudden outburst. "Stop acting so high and mighty. You really think everyone wants your family's money, ho?" Qin Huai stared at her coldly. "The only reason I want to marry you is out of a man's sense of responsibility, nothing more." Lu Qingxue pursed her lips. In this day and age, what man still has a sense of responsibility? Qin Huai slapped his chest. "I do." "Heh." Lu Qingxue gave him a disdainful smile. Qin Huai rolled his eyes. In the end, you won't believe that I'm serious, will you? Believe it. Lu Qingxue sneered, pointing at the window. If you jump out of it, I'll believe you. Really? Really? Before Lu Qingxue could finish, Qin Huai swiftly moved toward the window and jumped straight out. Watching his figure disappear behind the window frame, Lu Qingxue's jaw dropped. She never thought Qin Huai would jump so decisively. 2 seconds later, as Lu Qingxue came back to her senses, her entire body began to tremble. She grabbed her phone, ready to call the police. But then Qin Huai flipped and sat on the windowsill, mocking her. Encouraging someone to jump. Are you planning to confess over the phone? Lu Qingxue was shocked out of her wits, her hand shaking so much that the phone fell to the floor. How? I forgot to tell you, there's a balcony outside the window. Bastard. Lu Qingxue's teeth were clenched, and she wished she could bite Qin Huai to death. She immediately grabbed a cushion and hurled it at him. I'll kill you. But the next second, she froze. Under the cushion, there was a sheathed dagger. The hilt was engraved with a fierce wolf head, blood red and chilling. A weapon. Lu Qingxue's mind immediately conjured up dark, violent, and bloody images. What exactly are you? Her face turned pale as she looked at Qin Huai with fear in her eyes. Qin Huai sighed helplessly and said, What else could I be? Just a bartender. Go ahead, take a look for yourself. Lu Qingxue hesitated for a moment, then gripped the hilt and pulled out the dagger. It turned out the dagger was made of wood. For some reason, Lu Qingxue felt relieved. Though she couldn't understand why she had such a reaction. Ding ding ding. At that moment, her phone, which had fallen on the floor, rang with a pleasant melody. She bent down to pick it up, and seeing Dad on the screen, she immediately panicked. Pressing the answer button, she forced herself to calm down. Dad. Where have you been? A calm voice came from the phone. Lu Qingxue's father, Lu Xian, head of the Lu family conglomerate. Although Lu Qingxue didn't have the speaker on, Qin Huai's hearing was excellent and he could still hear. I don't care where you are, is everything okay? It's fine. Lu Qingxue quickly responded. Qin Huai smirked nearby. It's already happened. Last night, at least for times. Let us just hope no one ends up dead. Naming a child is so troublesome, I'll have to go back and check the family tree. It's fine, then come home right away. I need to talk to you, Lu Xian said. Okay, I'll be right back. Lu Qingxue responded, hanging up the phone. She grabbed her bag and rushed out. Qin Huai didn't stop her this time. As Lu Qingxue opened the door, she suddenly stopped, turned to look at Qin Huai, and coldly said, Don't hope for anything. Remember my words, don't ever appear in front of me again, or I'll make sure you regret it. Bang. The door slammed shut. Or I'll make sure you regret it. Qin Huai tilted his head and repeated Lu Qingxue's words, clicking his tongue. He yawned and walked toward the bedroom. Even if I don't take responsibility, you still have to take responsibility for me. You can't just pretend it never happened. Chapter 4 I'll marry. Buzz. Qin Huai had just fallen down on the bed when his cell phone vibrated. Looking at the unknown number on the caller ID, Qin Huai pressed the answer button. The test results are out. A cold female voice came. The voice was so cold, like ice that had been frozen for thousands of years, making people feel a chill in their hearts. Her code name is Shenhong, and she is Qin Huai's superior who has a single line of contact. Only she can contact Qin Huai actively, and Qin Huai cannot contact her. Over the years, he had only seen Qin Huai once, when he was 18 years old and had just joined the organization. He is young and has an ascetic face. One sentence can describe it as speaks little, has a cool expression, and has eyes that are as sharp as a knife. Qin Huai did not respond and waited for what was to come. The blood contains chronic neurotoxins, which are basically consistent with the heart-splitting toxins found in secret villages abroad. Qin Huai frowned. Splitting heart, this new type of chronic neurotoxin was discovered by him when he was on a mission abroad, and he later obtained a sample and reported it. This toxin is extremely difficult to detect and is usually harmless to the human body. If the poisoned person becomes too emotional, he may suffer from nervous disorder, cardiac arrest, and death. It looked like he died of heart palpitations, and even the most professional forensic doctor couldn't tell the difference. How did Lu Qingxue get poisoned by the heart-splitting poison? Being involved with a foreign secret bank is no small matter. Crimson continued, we also found some residual, violent woman, ingredients. I know that. Qin Huai touched his nose. It's not just knowing, it's experiencing it deeply. Any questions? Have. Qin Huai asked, if the person who was poisoned is about to get pregnant, is it possible that it will have adverse effects on the fetus? Shen Hong was silent for a moment, then said coldly, if you get pregnant before the toxins are cleaned, the fetus will be born with a neurological disease. I see. One more question, when can the antidote for split heart be developed? The RD team has made some progress, but it is inconvenient to disclose the details. Qin Huai pretended to be pitiful and said, big sister, give me an approximate time, it's time. Shen Hong was silent for a while, then said, at the latest, half a year. Half a year. Qin Huai thought to himself that he had to try his best to stabilize Lu Qingxue's emotions within half a year, otherwise she might die at any time. Although you can eat it while it's hot ahem. But Qin Huai can tell the difference between one meal being full and another. One last thing. Qin Huai's expression became serious. After finishing the work at hand, I want to take a rest. Crimson asked simply, how long? 3 years. Crimson was more straightforward this time, prepare your suicide note. Big sister, calm down. I have contributed to the organization and have made contributions to the organization. Let's talk it over. 1 year, and if there are any missions in the southwest, you will be responsible for solving them. Make a deal. Qin Huai couldn't wait to agree, and without waiting for Shen Hong's reaction, he hung up the phone decisively. He closed his eyes happily. I will have a year's vacation soon, Chen Huaidong, you better show up soon, I can't wait for the vacation. Lu Qingxue walked in her huge manner, her steps were a little awkward. Her expression was extremely complicated. Qin Huai's figure and words appeared in my mind one by one. I was really afraid that Qin Huai would come looking for me. That would mean announcing to the world that she, Lu Qingxue, slept with a bartender for unknown reasons. And she took the initiative. Subconsciously flipping through the address book on her phone, Lu Qingxue saw the 2 words, Qin Huai, that were saved most recently. She wanted to delete it, but gave up. Standing at the door of the villa, she took a deep breath, calmed herself down, then smiled and walked into their house. Dad, I'm back. In the luxuriously decorated living room, Lu Zenian, the helmsman of the Lu group, sat on the sofa in his pajamas with slightly messy hair. The air was thick with the smell of tobacco. Dad, why did you suddenly start smoking? Are you worried about me? I'm sorry, I know I was wrong, and I will never sneak out late at night next time. Lu Qingxue changed her shoes, walked over to sit next to Lu Zenian, and began to apologize in a coquettish manner. When Lu Zenian looked up at Lu Qingxue was stunned. My father's eyes were red and his face looked haggard and tired. I haven't seen this kind of thing for many years. Dad. Daughter, listen to Dad. Lu Zenian took a deep breath and said, our family is going bankrupt. What? Lu Qingxue was horrified. It is no exaggeration to say that the Lu group, headed by Lu Zenian, is the aircraft carrier in the commercial sea of Chongqing. How could it sink so easily? Blame me. Lu Zenian laughed at himself and said, Chen Huaidong from the Chen family is amazing. Chen Huaidong. Chen Huaidong, who just returned to China not long ago and is known as a business genius, threatened to integrate the southwestern business community and establish a business alliance. It's him. Lu Zenian nodded heavily, and his eyes looking at Lu Qingxue were particularly complicated. Chen Huaidong used a little trick, and I was defeated miserably. People who say he is a business genius underestimated him. But why did he? Because of you. Me? Lu Qingxue couldn't believe it. Lu Zenian sighed and said, Chen Huaidong said that if you marry him, the Lu group will survive, but if you don't, the Lu group will die. Lu Qingxue's eyes became empty. I never imagined that one day, a choice I made would determine the life or death of my family. After being stunned for a long time, Lu Qingxue looked at her father's tired and haggard appearance, and her heart ached. She said, I will marry you. Qin Huai slept until 6 o'clock before being woken up by the alarm clock. I opened the curtains and saw the sky filled with sunset glow. He yawned, went to the bathroom to wash up, changed into a bartender's uniform, and rode a shared bike to the bar. As soon as I arrived, a waitress came over and said, "Brother Huai, the boss's wife is here. She asked you to go to her office when you get there. She doesn't look very well. Did you make a mistake?" Qin Huai smiled and said, "What mistake could I make? Maybe they'll give me a raise." Having said that, he went straight up to the second floor. Walking along the corridor to the innermost room, Qin Huai raised his hand and knocked on the door. A slightly lazy response came from inside, "Come in." Qin Huai opened the door and walked into the office. A woman about 30 years old was sitting in the boss chair. She had burgundy wavy hair draped over her shoulders, delicate facial features revealing a natural charm, and she was wearing a burgundy high-slit skirt. At this moment, she was crossing her legs, and from the slit of her skirt, two long beautiful legs wrapped in flesh-colored stockings were revealed. The curves are round, like a masterpiece of God. Their high heels, also burgundy in color, swayed as the jade feet lightly tapped, as if tapping on the tip of one's heart. Her name is Yijingya, the owner of 7 Bar. It is said that she is married, but Qin Huai has never seen her husband come. Seeing Qin Huai staring at her legs, Yijingya was not annoyed. Instead, she straightened her legs a little so that Qin Huai could see more comprehensively. "Does it look good?" Chapter 5, Lady Boss. "Nice." Qin Huai awkwardly looked away and asked, "Sister Yi, are you looking for me?" Yijingya snorted, then opened the drawer, took out a bulging envelope, and threw it on the desk. "Here is your 3-month salary." Qin Huai asked in confusion, "Why did you suddenly give me 3 months' salary?" "It's for you to escape." Yijingya's peach blossom eyes swept across Qin Huai, revealing an expression that seemed to be both reproachful and playful. "Did you have a lot of fun last night?" "Are this?" Qin Huai was stunned. Ling said she waited outside the door for 5 hours before leaving. Yijingya smiled and said, "Young people have good physical strength and are able to do a lot of hard work." Ling is Yijingya's personal bodyguard. He has short hair and is very capable. He should be an ace soldier who retired from a special forces unit. Qin Huai had seen him many times, and he always looked serious. Yijingya has such an elite bodyguard following her at all times. Her identity is definitely not as simple as a bar owner. But it had nothing to do with Qin Huai, so Qin Huai didn't investigate Yijingya. Hearing Yijingya say this, Qin Huai showed an embarrassed expression. Ling is guarding outside the door, which means I was the one in the room last night." Yijingya said. Qin Huai couldn't help but stare. "Wouldn't others think that I and Sister Yi?" Yijingya's heart skipped a beat when she heard that, and her body reacted. The look she gave Qin Huai became even more charming. He looks handsome and resolute, and can even wear a bartender's uniform to look like a suit. Strong and powerful, it is the right age to charge and rush. Thinking of this, her breathing became a little faster. But soon, Yijingya's eyes dimmed, she put down her crossed legs, straightened her posture, and said coldly, "I was the only one resting in there last night. You were not feeling well, so you asked for leave from me early." Qin Huai was startled, then nodded and said, "I know, thank you, Sister Yi. I can hide it from everyone except the person involved." "Do you know who that woman is?" "Yes, the eldest daughter of the Lu group." "You're really brave. You slept with the daughter of the Lu group and acted as if nothing happened." Yijingya said seriously, "Take the money and leave quickly. Leave Chongcheng. Don't even think about it. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died in the end." "Thank you, Sister Yi." Qin Huai thanked him again, but did not pick up the envelope. He smiled and said, "I know what I am doing. Don't worry, I will never cause you any trouble." Yijingya frowned slightly. "You don't want to listen to my advice. I know Sister Yi cares about me." Qin Huai looked at Yijingya with sincere eyes. "I will take care of it." The two looked at each other for a long time, and Yijingya suddenly smiled. "Okay, then go and do your work. If you have any trouble, just tell me and I will help you solve it. Sister Yi is not only beautiful, but also kind-hearted. Meeting you is definitely a blessing that I have earned in 8 lifetimes. I have to get busy first." Qin Huai grinned, his eyes involuntarily looking at the pair of beautiful legs, then he turned and left. After the door was closed, Yijingya exhaled slowly, put on headphones, and clicked on an audio clip on the computer. As she listened, her eyes became blurry, her legs gradually closed, and she trembled slightly. Although Yijingya helped to cover up, Qin Huai knew that this matter would not end easily. Back at the bar on the first floor, Qin Huai thought for a moment and moved his gaze to the other bartender who was wiping the bar. His name is Huang Ding. He is about the same age as Qin Huai. He looks average, with slightly sunken eyes, giving him a gloomy look. With a roll of his eyes, Qin Huai stepped forward and hooked his arm around the other man's neck. Old Huang, let's go to the back door and have a cigarette. I don't. Let's go, it's not open yet anyway. Qin Huai almost dragged Huang Ding into the alley outside the back door. Huang Ding was furious. Let go. I said I don't want to, Before he could finish his words, Qin Huai's fist came down. He didn't hit her in the face, but just hit her in the stomach. Huang Ding was beaten so hard that he cried out in agony. After the fight, Qin Huai grabbed Huang Ding by the collar and said coldly, "How dare you do such a thing?" I. Huang Ding gasped in pain and met Qin Huai's wolf-like eyes, his heart trembling. Qin Huai shouted, "Tell me. Who told you to do this?" Huang Ding was so frightened that his face turned pale. He replied in horror, No one, I was just possessed by a ghost for a moment." "It's really you?" Qin Huai narrowed his eyes. He was just trying to trick this guy without any real evidence. "I didn't expect this guy's defense to be so easy to break through." You cheated me." Huang Ding also reacted, feeling horrified and angry. Qin Huai loosened Huang Ding's collar, took out a cigarette and put it to his lips. Huang Ding didn't open his mouth, so Qin Huai slapped him in the face. Seeing that Qin Huai was about to slap him, Huang Ding quickly held the cigarette in his mouth and dared not move. Qin Huai lit a cigarette for him and also lit one for himself. He took a deep breath and exhaled, saying calmly, "Tell me, who ordered you to do this?" "I am just possessed by the devil." Bang! Qin Huai's slap blew the cigarette out of Huang Ding's mouth. "You? There were so many beautiful women in the bar last night. Even if you were possessed by a ghost, you wouldn't dare to pick on Miss Lu." Huang Ding covered his face and said nothing. "It looks like he wants to hold on till death." Qin Huai was too lazy to continue, so he took out his mobile phone and operated it quickly a few times, and the payment records of the bank card under Huang Ding's name appeared clearly. "Heh, making 300,000 yuan for just giving medicine, that's pretty easy, but do you think it's so easy to get 300,000 yuan? Wait for Miss Lu to find someone to buy your life." "No." Huang Ding knelt down with a plop, and pulled Qin Huai's trouser legs to beg for mercy. "I was wrong. Brother Huai, save me." Qin Huai snorted, "That depends on your performance. I don't know who it is, really. Brother Huai, please believe me." Huang Ding said in a panic, "When I came to work yesterday, I met a man. He knew that I owed 300,000 yuan in gambling debts, and said that as long as I did what he said, he could help me pay off the debts." Qin Huai understood. Huang Ding was just a tool. Apart from adding something to Lu Qingxue's wine, he knew everything else. But that's enough. With the clues, he would naturally be able to find out the whole thing. "You go back first. If I find out that you are lying, you will bear the consequences." After sending Huang Ding away, Qin Huai took out his cell phone and called Lu Qingxue. Unexpectedly, Lu Qingxue's phone was turned off. This made Qin Huai think about it. He frowned and dialed a number, looking for someone, the daughter of the Lu group. "Lu Qingxue, hurry up." Clear. The phone call was hung up. 2 minutes later, a text message appeared on Qin Huai's mobile phone. Lu Qingxue is heading to the Lanting Waterside Pavilion to hold an engagement ceremony with Chen Huaidong, the eldest son of the Chen family. Got engaged. Qin Huai's eyes twitched slightly and the corners of his mouth turned up. "Chen Huaidong, you finally showed up." Chapter 6, Slut. At dusk, the sky is filled with sunset glow. Lu Qingxue sat in the car, staring at the passing scenery outside the window, lost in thought. "Go back and have a good rest. Don't think about anything. Wait for me to marry you." Qin Huai's words echoed in his mind over and over again. She blinked her clear and beautiful eyes, looked at her pretty face reflected in the car window, and raised her lips in a mocking tone. "I'm about to get engaged to a man I've never met. Why should I wait for you? Why should I wait for you?" Not long after, the car stopped. "Girl, we're here," Lu Zenian said next to her. Lu Qingxue nodded slightly, opened the car door and got out, looking at the classical buildings in front of her and pursed her lips. Her hands, unconsciously clasped together, revealed her inner tension. Lu Zenian was wearing a black suit and looked like a handsome uncle. He glanced at Lu Qingxue and said in a deep voice, "Daughter, don't force yourself. If you don't want to get married, then we won't get married. In Dad's heart, you are the most important." "Dad." Lu Qingxue's eyes turned red when she heard this, and she pouted and said, "What about our company?" Lu Zenian smiled and said, "I'll think of another way. Your father has been in the business world for so many years, so he must have some connections." Although Lu Zenian looked very confident, Lu Qingxue could see through her father's pretense of being strong. If connections were really useful, how could the Lu group fall into bankruptcy so quickly? After sniffing, Lu Qingxue smiled and took her father's arm and said, "Who said I don't want to get married? I heard that Qin Huai is handsome, talented and capable. Maybe I, your daughter, will fall in love with him as soon as I see him. That's what I want, har har." Lu Zenian smiled cheerfully, "Let's go." The father and daughter walked into the Lanting Waterside Pavilion side by side. Lanting Waterside Club is the top private club in Chongqing and adopts a membership system. Even the lowest level bronze member needs to have a net worth of tens of millions, which shows how high the status of Lanting Waterside is. But who the owner of Lanting Waterside is has always been an unsolved mystery. And tonight, Qin Huai, the eldest son of the Qin family, is getting engaged to Lu Qingxue from the Lu group. I don't know what means he used, but he directly booked the Lanting Waterside Pavilion. Through the front yard, there is a winding path leading to a secluded place. Behind the rockery and flowing water, there are pavilions and towers. The Lanting Pavilion in the center was bustling with people. At the invitation of the Qin family, almost all the celebrities and important figures from all walks of life in Chongqing came. As soon as the Lu family father and daughter appeared, they attracted everyone's attention. They all looked different. Some people envied and jealous that Lu Zenian had a good daughter, and from then on he married into the Qin family and became successful. There were also people who knew the inside story and looked at him with mockery in their eyes. Lu Zenian was a big shark after all, but he was easily defeated by the eldest son of the Qin family and ended up selling his daughter for fame. It was really ridiculous. But whether it is envy or gloating, on the surface, they all pretended to be enthusiastic and even congratulated each other. Lu Zenian was also a seasoned man. He pretended not to know their inner thoughts, bowed with a smile, responded to greetings, and performed superficial social interactions with great skill. Lu Qingxue was in this world of fame and fortune. Although she was the heroine, she felt out of place. Not knowing what to do. Bang! A strong light suddenly lit up on the platform, attracting everyone's attention. Immediately, a tall figure slowly walked onto the stage. When the bright light faded, only a man in a white suit was seen standing on the platform. He has handsome features and a dignified appearance. It was the famous eldest son of the Qin family, Qin Huai. Exclamations were heard everywhere. The celebrities present at the event were deeply moved. The Qin family was already one of the most powerful families in Chongqing, and they had a talented son like Qin Huai. It is foreseeable that the Qin family will continue to shine for at least 100 years. Lu Qingxue raised her head slightly and looked at Qin Huai. Is he handsome? Of course he is. But for some reason, when she looked into Qin Huai's eyes, she felt a sense of disgust and fear in her heart. Those were a pair of extremely indifferent eyes, as if they had abandoned all the emotions that humans should have. Cold, dead silent, and chilling. When Lu Qingxue looked at Qin Huai also found Lu Zenian from the crowd, and his eyes naturally fell on Lu Qingxue beside Lu Zenian. She was wearing a long black dress with her long hair tied up high, revealing her slender, white neck. The slender waist is so thin that it can be grasped with one hand, and when you look upwards, the curves suddenly become exaggerated. The breasts are breathtaking and make people unable to take their eyes away. A smile appeared on Qin Huai's lips. He changed his mind. I had originally thought of just finding a tool, but I didn't expect Lu Qingxue to be even more stunning than in the photos, and she is already qualified to be of ours. As for whether she can become Qin Huai's woman, it depends on Lu Qingxue's subsequent performance. This thought only flashed through his mind. Qin Huai looked down at everyone and said calmly, "Thank you all for coming to witness my engagement ceremony with Lu Qingxue, the daughter of the Lu group." As he spoke, he looked at Lu Qingxue, with a hypocritical look of affection, and said with a smile, "Qingxue, come on stage." At this moment, Lu Qingxue got goosebumps on her arms. Instinctively, she wanted to escape. But when she thought about her own situation, she pursed her lips and walked towards the stairs. Stop! A loud shout was heard. A woman with shiny silver flakes all over her evening dress, who looked like a cop spirit, stood in front of Lu Qingxue and stared at her with resentment in her eyes. Lu Qingxue was stunned, and then couldn't help laughing. This woman's name is Lingua, the daughter of the wealthy Ling family in Chongqing. The Ling family and the Lu family have many overlapping projects, and the two are competitors. Therefore, Lingua and Lu Qingxue are sworn enemies, and fighting whenever they meet has become the norm. Last night, Lu Qingxue went to 7 Bar to drink alone, and it was also because she was tricked by Lingua. Lingua, this is my engagement party with young Master Chen. If you want to disrupt it, have you thought about the consequences? Or is your Ling family so arrogant that they don't even take the Chen family seriously? Obviously, Lu Qingxue wanted to stir up conflict between the Chen family and the Ling family and kill someone with a borrowed knife. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. What I did was just my personal behavior and has nothing to do with our Ling family. Lingua was not a simple-minded fool, and she immediately distanced herself from the matter. Then she crossed her arms and said maliciously, "Besides, I stopped you not to cause trouble, but I just didn't want Brother Huaidong to be deceived by you." All the celebrities in the audience were silent, watching the two women fighting each other. The amusement on his face became more and more intense. The media leaders present could hardly hide the excitement on their faces. They have already thought of tomorrow's news, and the title is, "The daughter of the Lu family and the eldest daughter of the Ling family are jealous of the eldest son of the Chen family and actually do such a thing in public." Readers love to gossip about wealthy families, and you can definitely make a lot of money here. Chen Huaidong didn't know why, but he didn't stop it. But then, Lingua's words caused an uproar. She looked at Chen Huaidong and shouted, "Brother Huaidong! Lu Qingxue is a dissolute woman by nature. She is a complete slut. If you really get engaged to her, you will be cuckolded." Chapter 7: The eldest son of the Qin family. Lingua. Before Lu Qingxue could react, Lu Zenian had already strode out, his face cold. "You also know that you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. In front of so many people, you slandered my daughter, Lu Zenian. Does the Ling family want to fight to the death with the Lu group?" Under Lu Zenian's cold gaze, Lingua was not at all flustered. She snorted and said, "I'm not slandering you. If you don't believe me, ask your daughter where she went and what she did last night." Lu Zenian turned his head to look at Lu Qingxue. "I went to 7 Bar to drink last night, and then went to my best friend's house. If you don't believe me, I can call my best friend and ask her to testify," Lu Qingxue said calmly. Lu Zenian's heart skipped a beat. Others may not be able to see it, but no one knows a daughter better than her father. He could tell that Lu Qingxue was lying from the way she subconsciously pinched the hem of her skirt. But now was obviously not the time to ask further questions, so he said to Lingua, "Did you hear that? My daughter was at her friend's house last night. It's pointless to quibble." Lingua said aggressively, "I have evidence in my hand, Lu Qingxue. I advise you to confess yourself, otherwise when I produce the evidence, your Lu family will lose face." Lu Qingxue said angrily, "Evidence? Then show it to me." She felt weak inside, but acted strong. And it is 100% certain that Lingua has absolutely no evidence. Otherwise, Lingua would never give her the so-called chance to confess, and would directly take out the evidence, making her completely lose face. As expected, Lingua couldn't produce any evidence at all. She gritted her teeth and shouted, "Lu Qingxue, if you dare to do it, why don't you dare to admit it? I didn't do anything, why should I admit it? Don't you have evidence? Where is the evidence?" All right. Chen Huaidong said coldly, "This fast should end. Lingua, stop making trouble." Lingua and Chen Huaidong can be considered childhood sweethearts and have known each other since childhood. "Brother Huaidong, I really didn't lie to you. She last night. I've said enough." Chen Huaidong's face darkened. "If you are willing to stay and have a drink, I welcome you, but if you continue to make trouble, please leave." Lingua's face turned pale and her eyes turned red when she heard this. "Brother Huaidong, are you chasing me away? I just don't want you to make any more trouble, otherwise you will be embarrassed." Chen Huaidong had no intention of breaking off relations with the Ling family for the time being, otherwise he would have had Lingua thrown out. Regardless of whether it is true or not, publicly calling his fiancée a slut at the engagement ceremony is tantamount to slapping him in the face. Okay. I'll leave. You'll regret it. Lingua said with tears in her eyes, and then she gritted her teeth and said to Lu Qingxue, "Don't be complacent. I will definitely get the evidence, and then we'll see how you can quibble." After saying this, Lingua left with hatred. Lu Zenian spoke at the right time. "Everyone, you all know that our Lu family and the Ling family are competitors. Lingua deliberately spread rumors and slandered my daughter. I reserve the right to pursue it for the time being. Har har, it's just kids fooling around. No need to take it seriously. Don't worry, Mr. Lu. We won't make random guesses or say anything." Everyone responded. Qin Huai spoke again. "Qingxue, come on stage." Lu Qingxue forced a smile, lifted her skirt and walked up the stairs. But after just 2 steps, a familiar voice came, "Oh, there are so many people." Lu Qingxue's feet froze and her pupils contracted and then expanded in an instant. I turned my head suddenly and saw a young man in casual clothes striding towards me. Following behind him was a middle-aged man with mottled black and white hair. When Lu Qingxue saw the young man's face clearly, she felt as if the sky was falling and the earth was collapsing. "It's Qin Huai. He actually came here." Panic rose uncontrollably in Lu Qingxue's heart. What is Qin Huai doing here? What will be the consequences if he tells what happened last night? Lu Qingxue didn't dare to think about it. Everyone turned to look at Qin Huai and frowned slightly. Very young, very strange. Celebrities from all walks of life in Chongqing are all here, and if you are a well-known person, there will always be someone who knows you. But they had no impression of this one at all. A hint of viciousness emerged in Chen Huaidong's cold eyes. A wonderful engagement ceremony was interrupted again and again. This feeling of being out of control made him very uncomfortable. Someone who was quick-witted and wanted to curry favor with the Chen family immediately stood up and shouted, "What do you do? Don't you know that tonight is the engagement party for young Master Chen and the daughter of the Lu family? Who let you in?" "Who I am?" Qin Huai looked at Lu Qingxue from a distance, with the corners of his mouth raised in an evil smile. Lu Qingxue's eyes went dark, and her first thought was to kill Qin Huai on the spot to silence him. My second thought was to hit my head against the wall and commit suicide, once and for all. But Qin Huai didn't speak to Lu Qingxue, but snapped his fingers. Immediately, the middle-aged man behind Qin Huai, who was wearing a tuxedo and looked like a butler, shouted at the top of his voice, "The eldest son of the Qin family in Beijing is here in person. The capital. Young Master Qin." Everyone was stunned and looked at each other. Chen Huaidong frowned, and soon, he thought of something, his eyes twitched slightly, and he said, "The 9th richest family in Beijing, the Qin family." After hearing what Chen Huaidong said, a group of celebrities and dignitaries also reacted and their eyes widened in shock. Don't underestimate these people present, they are known as big shots in the upper class of Chongqing. Compared with the capital, they are just small fish and shrimps in a mud pond. Only those who can be called wealthy families in an international central city like Beijing are true giants. Qin Huai was very satisfied with everyone's reaction and nodded with a smile. "How many Qin families are there in Beijing?" "And I am the eldest son of the Qin family, Qin Huai." Someone said weakly, How do you prove that you are the eldest son of the Qin family in Beijing? Why should I explain to others what I have done in my life?" Qin Huai put his hands behind his back and spoke proudly. Lu Qingxue looked at Qin Huai pretending and was so embarrassed that she curled her toes tightly. Others may not know, so how could she not know? Why would a bartender who only earns a few $1,000s pretend to be a rich young master? Return to the Qin family in Beijing. At least you should change those cheap things you're wearing. And the tuxedo the guy behind you is wearing, isn't he that your bartender's uniform? Chen Huaidong walked down the steps from the other end of the platform, staring at Qin Huai with burning eyes, and said, "It turns out that it is the eldest son of the Qin family who has come to visit. My name is Chen Huaidong. I had the honor of meeting the third master of the Qin family at the Beijing summit a few months ago. What impressed me most was the jade Buddha beads in the hands of the third master Qin, which can be called a rare treasure." Qin Huai laughed and shook his head. "First of all, my family is not very large. There are only me and my unreliable father, and no one like third master Qin. Secondly, my Qin family never participates in summits. Finally, the jade Buddha beads are in the hands of the Xiong family and will not be shown to others easily. Hearing this, Qin Huai immediately smiled. Mr. Qin, I am sorry for offending you. Please come in and take a seat. Chapter 8 Fair Play. Qin Huai's words undoubtedly showed that he believed in Qin Huai's identity. Everyone gathered around and greeted him with shy smiles. The sudden arrival of the eldest son of the Qin family in the capital was like a real dragon sneaking in among a loach. If I could perform well in front of this young Master Qin and leave a good impression. Even if you get a word of praise from the other person, your life will change dramatically. Even. It might be a good idea to jump out of the city and join the circle in the capital. Thinking of this possibility, everyone became even more enthusiastic. Surrounded by people, Qin Huai sat at the main table like the moon surrounded by stars. Lu Qingxue couldn't help twitching the corners of her mouth. There is a sense of extreme absurdity. A group of celebrities and dignitaries vied to curry favor with a bartender. If they knew the truth, I wonder if they would be so angry that they would want to commit suicide. This bastard is so arrogant. If his identity is exposed, he won't be able to survive even if he has 100 lives. Lu Qingxue began to worry about Qin Huai. But soon, she reacted, why should I worry about him? Let him die. Don't let him get me or the Lu group implicated. Thinking of this, she took a deep look at Qin Huai, who was surrounded by the crowd and looked relaxed and contented, and went to the bathroom. After going to the toilet, Lu Qingxue turned on the faucet to wash her hands, and suddenly saw Qin Huai appear behind her in the mirror. She was startled and subconsciously opened her mouth to scream. But before she could even scream, Qin Huai covered her mouth. Then Qin Huai pulled her into the toilet cubicle and pushed her against the wall. Qin Huai slowly let go of his hand. Lu Qingxue's pretty face turned pale. She gritted her teeth and whispered, "What are you doing now?" Qin Huai asked hesitantly. Lu Qingxue was stunned for a moment, then she reacted and wanted to bite this bastard to death. It's already this hour and you're still joking? You're so brave. Why are you pretending to be a rich young master from the capital? Do you want to die? Qin Huai smiled and said, I really am the eldest son of the Qin family. You're such a jerk. The young master who mixes drinks in the bar every day. Forget it if you don't believe me. Qin Huai shrugged. Get out of here now. Are you kidding me? My woman is getting engaged to someone else soon, how can I leave? Who is your woman? You. I. Lu Qingxue clenched her fists and whispered, I told you, you don't deserve it. Then I don't care. Qin Huai said shamelessly, if not, I will tell you what happened last night. Before he could finish his words, Lu Qingxue covered his mouth with her hand. Then, Lu Qingxue trembled all over, quickly let go, and looked at Qin Huai with eyes full of fear and disgust. This bastard actually licked her palm. Lu Qingxue was anxious and angry, but she couldn't do anything to Qin Huai. She even had a pleading look in her eyes. What do you want? Do you really want to force me to die? Qin Huai said, you can't marry Qin Huai. Why should I listen to you? Lu Qingxue angrily whispered, Qin Huai is handsome, has a good family background, and is capable. What's wrong with him? Should I marry you instead of him? Unless I gouge my eyes out. Then you have to give me a fair chance to compete, otherwise I will. Lu Qingxue covered Qin Huai's mouth again. But I used a shoulder bag, for fear that Qin Huai would stick out his tongue again. Do you really think you can threaten me? At worst we'll die together. Lu Qingxue's teeth were almost broken. Qin Huai still looked grinning, and said, I want a fair chance to compete. That depends on whether Qin Huai agrees or not. I'm getting engaged to him soon. He will agree, because I am the eldest son of the Qin family. You are crazy, he is crazy too, you are all crazy. Lu Qingxue wanted to take off her high heels and use her heels to make a few holes in Qin Huai's head. But as soon as she finished speaking, Qin Huai blocked her mouth with his lips. Lu Qingxue's eyes widened. At her and Qin Huai's engagement party, Qin Huai actually dared to kiss her forcibly. Qin Huai didn't stick out his tongue this time. He took the initiative to let go of Lu Qingxue and whispered, wait and see my performance. After saying that, Qin Huai turned around and walked out of the toilet cubicle, then jumped out of the high window. He is agile and flexible like a monkey. Lu Qingxue looked at this scene and was not surprised. Last night she personally experienced how strong Qin Huai was. Those streamlined muscles that look comfortable yet contain explosive power. Those chocolate-like abdominal muscles. That perfect mermaid line, vest line. those intersecting scars, etc. Lu Qingxue suddenly realized, how could Qin Huai, a bartender, have so many scars on his body? I can't figure it out, and I'm too lazy to think about these unimportant things. Lu Qingxue took a deep breath and calmed herself down. When she came out of the bathroom, Qin Huai was already chatting and laughing with Chen Huaidong and others. What made Lu Qingxue speechless was that Lu Zenian was also among them, and it seemed that he and Qin Huai were almost on close terms. Everyone else was jealous. Why was Qin Huai so enthusiastic about Lu Zenian? Lu Zenian seemed extremely proud of this, his face almost breaking from smiling. Even though the Lu group plays an important role in Chongqing, it is nothing in the capital. Lu Qingxue was messy again. She was really afraid that her father would not be able to accept the truth after he knew it. At this time, Chen Huaidong said, "Mr. Qin, have you just arrived in Chongqing? Chongqing does have many unique attractions. If Mr. Qin doesn't mind, I can be your tour guide." Qin Huai smiled and said, "I didn't come to Chongqing for tourism." Chen Huaidong, that is. Qin Huai looked at Lu Qingxue and pointed his finger. Lu Qingxue almost ran away, but she resisted the urge to run away, pretended not to know what was going on, pulled a chair and sat down, and started playing with her phone. In fact, he was in a state of panic and his pupils were dilated. The lively atmosphere instantly cooled down with Qin Huai's pointing. Everyone's eyes moved back and forth between Chen Huaidong, Qin Huai and Lu Zenian. Now they understood why Qin Huai was so warm and polite to Lu Zenian. Lu Zenian was restless, like an ant on a hot pan. Even though he had been in the business world for a long time and had encountered all kinds of situations, he was still at a loss at this moment. It was a good thing that my daughter was so charming that she could make the young master of a wealthy family in Beijing fall in love with her. Can. Chen Huaidong's expression was calm, as if he was not angry at all, and he said, "Mr. Chen knows Qingxue." Yes, and for quite some time. As Qin Huai was speaking, he was thinking in his heart, all in all, it has been 5 hours, and my waist is still aching. Chen Huaidong said, "Mr. Qin may not know that Qingxue has agreed to marry me. Today is our engagement day. Mr. Chen." Qin Huai said sincerely, "I don't want to steal someone's love, but I've ruined my life since I saw Lu Qingxue. I came all the way here, and all I want is a chance to compete fairly. Of course, this is very unfair to young Master Chen, so I can make the decision. When young Master Chen wants to develop in Beijing, we can cooperate more. I think young Master Chen will not be satisfied with this small pond in Chongqing." Chen Huaidong's eyes showed a hint of joy, but he sighed heavily and said bitterly, "Young Master Qin has said this. If I don't agree, it means that I, Chen Huaidong, am ungrateful. Well, let's compete fairly." Chapter 9 $500. "Mr. Chen, you are so righteous. I will toast you with tea instead of wine." Qin Huai picked up the teacup and drank it all. "How can we just drink tea? Young Master Qin and I hit it off right away, so we have to have at least 2 cups today." Chen Huaidong shouted loudly, "Serve the food." Delicious dishes were served one after another, filling several tables. The guests took their seats one after another, but no one started eating. Qin Huai looked at the table full of sumptuous dishes and said hesitantly, "Mr. Chen, this engagement banquet." Chen Huaidong waved his hand and said in a rather heroic manner, "What kind of engagement banquet is this?" "This is the welcoming banquet I prepared for young Master Qin. Welcome young Master Qin to Chongqing." "Ahar, thank you very much for your hospitality, Master Chen. I toast to you. Mr. Qin, you're welcome. Let's eat and talk at the same time." The two of them had a great conversation and the atmosphere was particularly harmonious. The guests also came up to toast and introduce themselves. Lu Qingxue looked at this scene with mixed feelings. Qin Huai helped her solve her urgent problem, but it was only a temporary solution and not a fundamental solution. Lies cannot withstand investigation. What will happen when Qin Huai's identity is exposed? Lu Zenian was also in a complicated mood. "I felt like my precious daughter, who I held in my hands, had become some kind of commodity. 2 buyers are negotiating the ownership of the item. I never thought of asking the father and daughter for their opinions. But Lu Zenian could do nothing. Qin Huai, needless to say, was the eldest son of the Qin family in the capital, with a noble status and position, and he could only look up to him. Chen Huaidong can also be regarded as a genius. He can overthrow the Lu group with a wave of his hand. His sophisticated and ruthless strategies and tactics have overturned his cognition. Looking at the two young people drinking and chatting happily in front of him, Lu Zenian suddenly felt that he was getting old. He felt sad for a moment, but he could only put on a smile and continue to socialize. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, Qin Huai drank a lot of wine, his face was flushed, his eyes were blurred, and he looked a little drunk. He and Chen Huaidong were arm in arm, just like half-brothers. Burp. Dongzi, I can't drink anymore. Let's stop here today. The saliva mixed with a strong smell of alcohol sprayed all over Chen Huaidong's face. Chen Huaidong felt extremely disgusted in his heart, but he smiled and nodded on the surface. Okay, just enjoy your drink, I won't persuade you. Where do you live now, Mr. Qin? I'll find someone to take you there. No, no need. My housekeeper will take me there. Qin Huai waved his hand. The middle-aged man who had been eating voraciously finally put down his chopsticks and helped Qin Huai to stand up. The celebrities and dignitaries present left their seats one after another, and a group of people gave Qin Huai enough face and sent him to the door. Qin Huai glanced at Lu Qingxue and smiled foolishly. Lu Qingxue's face was flushed, and she felt a little guilty. She turned her head away and didn't look at Qin Huai. Qin Huai shifted his gaze to Lu Zenian and said, Uncle Lu, please move around more often in the future. Okay, Mr. Qin, please come anytime you are free. Lu Zenian nodded quickly. Because of his daughter and with the protection of the eldest son of the Qin family, Chen Huaidong would not take action against the Lu group again. Be sure to come more often. Qin Huai responded and looked at Chen Huaidong again. Dongzi, we agreed on fair competition, you can't make things difficult for Uncle Lu. Chen Huaidong smiled casually. Don't worry, Mr. Qin. Then I will, hiccup, Qingxue, I'll leave first. Qin Huai said reluctantly. Lu Qingxue kept her head down and didn't respond. It was not until Lu Zenian touched her quietly that Lu Qingxue forced out a hum through her nose. Don't mind it, Mr. Qin. Qingxue is shy. Lu Zenian said. No, I don't mind. Why would I mind? Har har har, burp, let's go. Qin Huai seemed to be getting more and more drunk, and his steps became unsteady. In full view of the crowd, Qin Huai was helped by a middle-aged man into an ordinary black car. It was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. Under the cover of night, the city is shrouded in colorful neon lights. The car sped away, and Qin Huai immediately sat up straight. The drunkenness in his eyes had completely disappeared, and his eyes were clear. The middle-aged man in a tuxedo smiled bitterly and shouted, Master. Qin Huai said, Uncle Xiao, thank you for your hard work. You can go back to the capital now. Why don't you go back? You've been away from home for 5 years. The master misses you so much that he cries silently every night looking at your photo. Stop. Qin Huai looked at the middle-aged man with disdain. Uncle Xiao, can you draft a lie before you tell it? Him? He cries every night looking at my photo. Am I dead? He must be playing spree with Aunt Lan every night and having a blast. The middle-aged man was speechless and choked, unable to refute even if he wanted to. Because Qin Huai is right. After a moment of silence, he said, but it's not right for you to just keep wandering around like this. Which young master would want to give up his good life and run away from home for several years without coming back? Good day. Qin Huai rolled his eyes, took out his cell phone and dialed a number. You spread my legs apart, and now you want to kick me. A particularly obscene ringtone rang out from the cell phone. After a moment, the call was connected. You little bastard, are you willing to call me? A deep male voice came from the phone. Qin Huai said directly, I am short of money now, transfer 100 million or 800 million to me. Are you crazy? 100 million is fine. What the hell do you want? 50 million. $500, not a cent more. Qin Huai asked quietly, I'm not your biological child at all, right? Hello? Hello. Why is the signal on this crappy phone always so bad? Hello. Are you still listening, little bastard? What the hell? Forget it, let's talk next time. My beloved concubine Lan, I'm here. The call was disconnected. Qin Huai looked at the middle-aged man expressionlessly. Uncle Xiao, what do you think? The middle-aged man covered his face and immediately took out 5 red bills from his wallet. Master, take these and have something delicious. I'll go back first. He left very decisively, without even waiting for the car to stop. He opened the door and got out, dashing away at a speed of 100 meters per 5 seconds and disappearing around the street corner. The driver looked back at Qin Huai with disdain in his eyes. Sir, it's almost time, do you still want to rent a car? No more renting. Qin Huai got out of the car and lit a cigarette. I don't have money to pretend to be your mother. And you still call me young master, bar. The driver started the car and drove away, cursing, spraying Qin Huai's face with exhaust fumes. Qin Huai was not angry. He just silently memoized the license plate number of the car, puffed out smoke, picked up his mobile phone, entered the encryption system, and made a call. Number 140627, codename Nevernight, report the progress of the mission. Voice confirmed, number confirmed. Command code 5-1-54-26-94. The code is clear. The call ends. Qin Huai walked all the way back to the rental house. The moment I closed the door, the phone vibrated. Qin Huai pressed the answer button, and a deep red, cold voice came, speak. The target has appeared. This is the first contact today. Qin Huai took a bottle of mineral water and opened it. Shen Hong said, as long as it does not violate national laws, no matter what means you use, as long as you prevent him from controlling the economic lifeline of the Southwest and obtain information about the foreign forces behind him, you will complete your mission. Qin Huai drank half a bottle of water in one breath, wiped his mouth and said, I need financial support. There was silence on the phone for a while, and Shen Hong finally spoke. The organization has had some difficulties with funding recently. Qin Huai curled his lips and said, just tell me how much you can give. Shen Hong asked back, how much does your breakfast usually cost? I don't eat breakfast. What about lunch? Normally I cook for myself, but if I really don't want to move, I'll go to the restaurant downstairs and order one meat and one vegetable. Qin Huai answered and suddenly had a bad feeling. Shen Hong's tone was still cold. Then when you go to the restaurant downstairs at noon tomorrow, order an extra soup. The organization will reimburse you. Qin Huai. Chapter 10. You have to support me. The lights were on inside the Chen family's house. Chen Huaidong sat there with his legs crossed, playing with a silver cross in his hand. A man came hurriedly. Master, I have checked it out. The middle-aged man is called Xiao Yang. He is the housekeeper of the Qin family. He arrived in Chongqing at 8:30 in the evening. Chen Huaidong's lips curled slightly. It seems that Qin Huai is indeed the eldest son of the Qin family who has been missing for 5 years. Have you found out what Qin Huai has experienced over the years? We found out that after he ran away from home, he moved to several cities in China, working and traveling. After arriving in Chongqing 3 months ago, he applied for a bartender position at 7 Bar and is currently employed. Interesting. Master, should Lu Qingxue be given to Qin Huai? Let. Chen Huaidong asked back, why should we give in? Aren't you doing Qin Huai a favor? He. Chen Huaidong said calmly, on the contrary, not only can we not give in, but we must also do our best to pursue Lu Qingxue. This. The man looked confused. The more I give, the more sense of accomplishment the young master of the Qin family will have when he gets Lu Qingxue, and the deeper the favor he will owe me. Master is wise. The man still didn't understand, but that didn't stop him from flattering her. Girl, shouldn't you tell me about your relationship with the young master of the Qin family? Lu Zenian had just returned home. He sat on the sofa and asked Lu Qingxue with a stern face. Lu Qingxue lowered her head and said nothing. Now that you've grown up and become independent, you don't have to tell Dad about anything, right? Lu Zenian held his breath and asked again, tell me. Where did you go last night? Lu Qingxue replied, I've already said it, I'm with Junjun, if you don't believe me. Bang! Lu Zenian slapped the coffee table, causing his eyes to twitch in pain. He pretended to withdraw his hand naturally and said angrily, how long do you want to lie to me? I'm your father, don't I know you? Lu Qingxue remained silent again. Okay. I can't control you anymore. Lu Zenian's chest heaved, and he shouted, from now on I won't ask about your affairs. You can make your own decision. Dad. Seeing that her father was really angry, Lu Qingxue's eyes turned red and she was about to cry. It's not that I don't want to tell you, but I don't know how to start. I slept with a bartender without knowing what was going on, and this bartender was so bold that he pretended to be a rich young man from Beijing. Even if I say it, what's the use? The young master of the Qin family has become the last straw for the Lu group. When my father learns the truth, he will definitely give up everything for me. Unless she is willing to marry Qin Huai. But after meeting Qin Huai tonight, Lu Qingxue couldn't accept it at all. Besides, even if Lu Qingxue closed her eyes and accepted her fate, what about Qin Huai? No one can predict what she will do when she finds out that she is not a virgin. Well. Seeing Lu Qingxue almost crying, Lu Zenian felt distressed and softened his tone. Forget it, if you don't know how to say it, then don't say it. Everything in the past is not important. I have figured it out. Even if you are willing to marry Qin Huai will not give up the fat piece of meat of Lu's consortium. My dear, tell me honestly, between Qin Huai and the eldest son of the Qin family, who would you rather try to be with? Under Lu Zenian's gaze, Lu Qingxue seemed to want to say something but stopped herself. If she had to choose between these two people, she would rather choose Qin Huai. But I suggest you choose Qin Huai. Lu Zenian said in a deep voice. Qin Huai gives me a very dark feeling, like a poisonous snake. Every time I see him, I feel a chill. Qin Huai is the eldest son of the Qin family. He is not afraid of Qin Huai. Compared with the Qin family, our Lu consortium is not worth mentioning, so Qin Huai's feelings for you are purer. With Qin Huai's help, our Lu group will no longer be in danger of being swallowed up by Qin Huai. We can even develop directly in Beijing with Qin Huai's help. Speaking of this, Lu Zenian's eyes lit up. The capital city is where the winds and clouds turn into dragons. Countless legends are born there every day. Why can't the Lu family become the next legend? Lu Qingxue felt sad when she heard this. It would be fine if Qin Huai was really the eldest son of the Qin family, but he is a fake. No. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. I can't keep it a secret any longer. I must tell Dad. Lu Qingxue was thinking about it and was about to confess to Lu Zenian when her cell phone suddenly rang. Her cell phone was on the coffee table. Lu Zenian leaned over to take a look, his expression becoming more serious, and said, "It's Qin Huai." Lu Qingxue suddenly panicked. "Take it. We can't offend him too much for now," Lu Zenian said. Lu Qingxue nodded, picked up the phone, looked at the unfamiliar number on it, adjusted her mood, pressed the answer button, and said calmly, "Hello. Qingxue, I'm Qin Huai." When Lu Qingxue heard Qin Huai's voice, she couldn't help but think of those extremely cold and indifferent eyes, and goosebumps appeared uncontrollably on her arms. She suppressed her panic and said, "Well, I know. What's the matter so late?" Qin Huai said, "There will be a concert at the Grand Theatre tomorrow. I have someone reserve 2 seats in the best area for me. Do you want to go and see it together?" "Well, I have something to do tomorrow, so I may not be able to go." Lu Qingxue refused. "That's a shame. It's okay. Let's do it next time. I won't bother you anymore. Go to bed early. Good night." "Thank you, good night." After Lu Qingxue hung up the phone, her breathing became uncontrollably rapid. Lu Zenian asked, "What did Qin Huai say?" "He wanted to invite me to a concert tomorrow, but I declined." "Just refuse if you want to. Anyway, with Qin Huai here, there's no need to be too afraid of him." Lu Qingxue nodded silently, with a look of struggle on her face. "Go and rest if you have nothing to do. It's getting late. By the way, I want to discuss something with you. I plan to hand over the Lu group to you. From tomorrow on, you will be fully responsible for its management." Lu Qingxue opened her mouth in shock. "Why are you so surprised? Dad has been busy with work these years and has many underlying illnesses. Rest for a while, take good care of your body, and try to live a few more years. You have outstanding abilities, and you are Dad's only daughter. Sooner or later, the group will be handed over to you." "But there's no buts. It's decided." Lu Zenian interrupted. Lu Qingxue was silent for a moment and nodded. Lu Zenian loves her very much, but when it comes to the group's affairs, once a decision is made, it will not be changed. Looking at the increasing number of white hairs on her father's head, Lu Qingxue realized that after living comfortably under her father's wings for so many years, it was time for her to shoulder this responsibility. Beep, beep. The cell phone rang again. Lu Qingxue looked down. The caller ID showed the words Qin Huai. She wanted to hang up the phone immediately. Lu Zenian asked, Chen Huaidong again? No. It's Qin Huai. Lu Qingxue said hesitantly. Lu Zenian immediately urged, what are you waiting for? Answer it. Oh. Lu Qingxue pursed her lips and pressed the answer button. Soon, Qin Huai said on the phone, Lu Qingxue, I have resigned. You have to support me from now on. Lu Qingxue's mind went blank in an instant and she was a little confused. How could there be such a bastard in this world who can be so arrogant while living off others? After coming to her senses, Lu Qingxue decisively hung up the phone. Lu Zenian asked curiously, what did Qin Huai say? Lu Qingxue stroked her hair, took a deep breath, and said, he said he would support me in the future. Chapter 11 Newer. Lu Zenian asked, you refused? Lu Qingxue nodded, yes. Good rejection. Lu Zenian laughed, and then said seriously, but we can't be vases. No matter how extraordinary the man is, you have to have your own career and show your own value. If you really enter the Qin family in the future, you won't be criticized. Do you understand? Lu Qingxue nodded weakly again. Then go and rest early. I will hold a board meeting tomorrow morning. You can go to the company to take over. The Lu group will be handed over to you from now on. Good. Lu Qingxue walked upstairs and suddenly turned back and shouted, Dad. What's wrong? I'm fine. I just wanted to ask, where are you going to rest? She didn't plan to tell her father that Qin Huai was just a bartender. Anyway, her father has handed over the Lu group to her, so she will be responsible for everything from now on. Cicero Island. Lu Zenian answered subconsciously. As soon as he finished speaking, he reacted and an embarrassed look appeared on his face. Cicero Island is located on the west side of the ocean and is a tourist destination with a beautiful environment. The point is not the island, but the woman on this island that Lu Zenian has been thinking about. Just as Lu Zenian was about to make some excuses, Lu Qingxue spoke up, Mom has been gone for many years, and Aunt Wei has been waiting for you. Dad, you really should give her an explanation. I support you. Really? Lu Zenian was stunned. Really? Lu Qingxue nodded seriously. My daughter. Lu Zenian was so moved that his nose felt a little sore. Dad, then I won't live back home anymore. The house feels empty when you're not at home, and I'm not used to it. Lu Qingxue said. Lu Zenian thought for a moment and looked at Lu Qingxue meaningfully. Where do you want to live? Let's go to Junjun's place. We can be together and at least have someone to look after us. Besides, her place is close to the company, so it will be more convenient for me to go to the company in the future without having to get stuck in traffic every day. Okay, I agree. Lu Zenian nodded. Thanks, Dad. I'm going to rest now. Good night. Lu Qingxue hurried upstairs. After her figure disappeared from the room, Lu Zenian sat on the sofa and took out an old yellowed photo from the drawer. As he looked at it, he sighed, Wife, our daughter has grown up and will soon take over my career. I should let go of many things. Wei has waited for me for so many years. I want to make it up to her for the rest of my life. Will you blame me? The night is dark. Some people are asleep, while others are on their way home. Qin Huai walked through the busy street and turned into a quiet alley, still with an angry look on his face. He has resigned from 7 Bar. As a small bartender, you don't need the boss's approval to resign. You just need to tell your supervisor. The salary will be directly deposited into his card. What made Qin Huai unhappy was Lu Qingxue. He doesn't want a dowry, nor does he want a car or a house. He just wants food and shelter. How can he not even be satisfied with this? What a scumbag. You have tarnished my innocence, so don't even think about kicking me out so easily. You have me, Qin Huai, and even Jesus can't stop me. I will move into your house tomorrow. You are eating and drinking for free and not working. Call. Qin Huai was thinking when he suddenly heard a sound of breaking air behind him. He raised his eyebrows, then without looking back, he lifted his feet off the ground and did an overhead kick. With a dull thud, a sack was kicked into the corner by him. What is that? Qin Huai was puzzled. When I kicked it just now, I felt the sack was quite heavy, probably around 90 to 100 kilograms. Who? He looked around and saw only a black shadow disappearing in the distance. The distance is too far and I can't catch up. Qin Huai hesitated for a moment, approached the sack, and reached out to touch it cautiously. It feels a bit soft, but very elastic. This feels hum. Qin Huai pinched it subconsciously and sketched out a rough shape in his mind. Rabbit. He withdrew his hand, moved it a little to the left, and reached out to touch it again. The feel is the same as on the right. Isn't that someone's silicon girlfriend? Thinking of this, Qin Huai untied the rope on the sack, and his expression instantly became strange. There was a person in the sack. A woman. Her long hair was disheveled and she was only wearing tight clothes, revealing a large area of fair skin. Under the dim light, her skin was glowing and extremely attractive. Qin Huai lifted her long hair, revealing a cute face with baby fat. Her face was a little pale, and even though she was unconscious, her brows were still tightly furrowed. She looked very delicate and pitiful. Qin Huai touched his nose, feeling a little embarrassed. It is not known whether the woman was already in a coma or was kicked unconscious by him. I looked up again and found that the remote alley was silent. A honey trap? Or a frame-up? Qin Huai's thoughts turned quickly in his mind, and then he shook his head and sighed. Qin Huai would feel guilty if he left an unconscious woman wearing only underwear here in the middle of the night. If anything goes wrong later, this woman's life may be ruined. After thinking it over, Qin Huai decided to take her away. After putting the sack back on, Qin Huai carried the woman of unknown origin back to the rental house quickly. After closing and locking the door, he took her out of the sack. Some physical contact is inevitable during this process. Only after he put the woman on the bed and covered her with a thin blanket did Qin Huai let out a long sigh. There were beads of sweat on his forehead. This is much more difficult than fighting a strong enemy. Qin Huai unscrewed a bottle of mineral water and drank it all in one gulp, clicking his lips. It's a good thing that you met me. If it were any other man with weaker self-control, he would definitely be eaten up. It's really because this woman's figure is so attractive that any man who sees her will be confused. Standing up, Qin Huai took some clean clothes and went to the bathroom to take a shower. After getting dressed, he came out and saw the woman still sleeping. He couldn't help feeling a little worried. He was well aware of the power of that kick, and if anything bad happened, it would be his responsibility. I'm not trying to take advantage of you, I just want to see if you're hurt. Qin Huai muttered, pulled down the thin blanket slightly, and couldn't help swallowing. But then, his eyes fell on the woman's neck and his gaze fixed. There is a reddish three-pointed mark there. Two words immediately appeared in Qin Huai's mind. Newer. She is not the Newer who created humans and repaired the sky in mythology. It is an internationally notorious criminal organization. Those who specialize in organ trafficking are hated by both humans and gods. Newer has committed crimes in countries around the world and has long been a target of international patrols. But until now, he is still at large. Before each of Newer's actions, she would stake out a spot, and after locking onto the victim, she would leave a mark on the victim's body. Then, within half a month, they would take action to kidnap the person without anyone noticing and then perform an autopsy in a secret place. The means are extremely cruel. The three-pointed mark on this woman's neck means that she is Newer's target. She must have been abducted by Newer's people tonight, but no one knew what happened along the way and she was accidentally seen by Qin Huai. Good fellow, so you owe me your life. Chapter 12 Su Huai Juan. Based on the premise that he was his savior, Qin Huai felt completely at ease with the subsequent inspection. After checking the man's entire body, I found no signs of serious injuries, just some bruises on the chest. This woman is still in a coma, probably due to the effects of the drugs. Qin Huai breathed a sigh of relief, and his stomach started to growl. I just drank alcohol in the evening and didn't eat much, so I'm hungry now. Qin Huai went to the kitchen and cooked a bowl of noodles. Soon, the spicy noodles were cooked. Qin Huai had just brought the noodles to the table when he saw the woman on the bed moaning and waking up in a daze. Their eyes met, and both of them were a little stunned. Qin Huai's gaze involuntarily moved downwards, looking towards that proud place. The woman looked down along Qin Huai's line of sight, and then... "Ar!" A scream loud enough to pierce the eardrums suddenly rang out. Qin Huai was startled and rushed over to cover the woman's mouth. The screaming stopped abruptly. Bang bang bang. There was a knock on the door. A woman's roar could be heard from outside the house. Why are you yelling so late at night? Do you know you are disturbing others? Do you still want to live here? If not, pack up and get out. The woman outside the door was Qin Huai's landlord, who lived opposite. No. Qin Huai ignored the woman's struggle and responded loudly, I was watching a porn movie and the volume was a bit high. Sorry. There was silence outside the door for a long time before the landlady said, keep your voice down next time, young people are really. The door closed quickly. Qin Huai breathed a sigh of relief, and only then did he have time to look at the woman in his arms. He pretended to be fierce and whispered, shut up, if you dare to scream again, I will fuck you first and then fuck you again. As soon as these words came out, the woman no longer dared to struggle. Tears quickly gathered in her eyes. Besides fear and terror, she also looked aggrieved and pitiful, which made people feel sorry for her. Qin Huai slowly loosened his grip. Sure enough, the woman did not scream again. She just frantically grabbed the thin blanket and wrapped herself in it, leaving only her head exposed. Qin Huai said, tell me, what's your name? Where do you live? The woman pursed her lips and said nothing, her delicate body trembling slightly, and she looked extremely helpless. Don't worry, I'm not a bad person. To be precise, I saved you. Qin Huai shrugged, if it weren't for me, you don't know what would have happened to you. But after I saved you, you were in a coma, so I could only take you back to my home for the time being. Hearing this, the woman felt relieved, but still didn't dare to believe it easily. She sniffed and asked, who are you? Qin Huai said casually, my name is Qin Huai, a young man who just lost his job. I obey the rules and laws, respect the elderly and love the young. The woman found what Qin Huai said interesting and smiled subconsciously, then immediately pursed her lips. How long are you going to maintain this stalemate? After all, I am your savior. Qin Huai said unhappily. My name is Sujuan. Nice name. Qin Huai said perfunctorily, and suddenly remembered that he had not eaten his noodles yet. Just as he was about to move, he heard a gurgling sound in his ears. It came from the belly of this woman named Sujuan. Are you hungry? Qin Huai asked. Sujuan's face flushed and he nodded hesitantly. I just cooked some noodles, how about a bite? This. Eat it if you want. Sujuan tentatively said, I want to go home. Qin Huai tilted his head, are you leaving like this? Sujuan then remembered that he was only wearing underwear, and even his ears began to turn red. Can you give me a set of clothes? I will wash them and return them to you when I get home. Wait. Qin Huai scratched his head and started searching in his closet. After a lot of effort, Qin Huai found a pair of jeans and a white shirt. After Sujuan took it, he said weakly, can you step aside for a moment, I'll put on my clothes. I'm going to the bathroom. Qin Huai walked towards the toilet and rolled his eyes quietly. He had looked at her whole body. After Qin Huai entered the bathroom, Sujuan kept looking in. After a while, seeing that Qin Huai did not come out on purpose, he quickly put on his clothes and pants. The waist of the pants is too big and it keeps falling down. I can't wear them at all. She lifted her trouser waist and found that Qin Huai had thoughtfully prepared a belt there. It seems I met a good person. Sujuan thought about it, fastened the belt, and then shouted, I'm fine. Crash. The sound of the toilet flushing rang out. Qin Huai came out of the toilet, wiped the water stains on his hands, pointed to the bowl on the table and said to Sujuan, eat something. Thanks. Sujuan smiled at Qin Huai. This smile made the lights dim a little, and it was so beautiful that it made people happy. Qin Huai couldn't help but secretly compare Sujuan and Lu Qingxue. The beauty of the two women is comparable, but their temperaments and images are different, and each has its own emphasis. Sujuan had already sat down and started eating noodles. Just like Lu Qingxue, after taking a bite, his eyes lit up and he continued to eat. Soon the bowl of noodles was finished, and there was no soup left. After eating, she wiped her mouth and looked at Qin Huai, her pretty face blushing again. Thank you, the noodles are delicious. She is a polite girl. Qin Huai said, do you want me to take you there? This. Sujuan was a little hesitant. She still couldn't completely trust Qin Huai. Forget it, go back by yourself, and use this money to take a taxi. Qin Huai handed Sujuan a red bill. Sujuan looked at the banknote, then at Qin Huai's resolute and handsome face, and suddenly made a decision. it's so late, I'm afraid it's not safe for me to be alone, so why don't you take me there? All right. Qin Huai nodded, thinking about going downstairs for dinner. The two of them went downstairs. Su Huaijuan looked around and thought that it was a wise idea to ask Qin Huai to send them off. A dilapidated and remote urban village with complex terrain. It was okay during the day, but it was pitch black at night and she really didn't dare to walk alone. Qin Huai was in front, and Su Huaijuan followed closely behind without saying a word along their way. The two were almost strangers and didn't know what to talk about for a moment. Soon, we walked out of the urban village and saw the lights in front of us, and it was already a bustling street. Small stalls selling various foods stretch into the distance on both sides of the road, full of the atmosphere of fireworks. Qin Huai hailed a taxi on the side of the road. After Su Huaijuan got in the car, he saw that Qin Huai had no intention of getting in, so he said, "Aren't you going to take me home?" "Forget it. You ate my noodles. I'm still hungry now. Let's go eat something first." Qin Huai declined politely. "She's not my girlfriend. I sent her here out of humanitarian reasons. If you give it again, you will become a bootlicker." Seeing this, Su Huaijuan didn't force it and said, "Then, leave me your contact information. I still want to return the clothes to you." "No need, we just met by chance, we'll see each other again if we're lucky." Qin Huai waved his hand, turned around and left. But just after taking one step, he turned back and said to Su Huaijuan, "If you had an accident at home before, I suggest you don't go home tonight, and stay somewhere you feel safe for one night." "Okay, I'll remember that." "Thank you, Qin Huai." Su Huaijuan thanked sincerely. The taxi drove out slowly, and Qin Huai's figure disappeared from Su Huaijuan's sight. She didn't know what she was thinking about, and a smile quietly appeared on the corner of her mouth. Chapter 13 Tracking. Qin Huai stopped in front of a mobile stall selling fried rice and fried noodles on the roadside. The stall owner was a middle-aged woman wearing an apron and working skillfully. "Madam, one serving of fried noodles with shredded pork." "Okay, handsome guy, take a seat first, it will be ready soon." Qin Huai casually took a small stool and sat down, took out his mobile phone and used the encryption system to send a message to an unknown number. "Tell the other party that traces of Nuer were found in Chongqing." At this time, a fat middle-aged man walked over quickly and called the proprietress wife. The lady boss kept moving her hands and asked curiously, "Why are you closing the car so early today?" "Hey, don't mention it. These days, all kinds of weird things happen." "What's wrong?" "My car was stolen." "Ah? The car was stolen." The proprietress paused and looked at her husband in surprise. The man said, "When I went to the toilet, my car was taken away." "Damn it, I don't understand. Why did he steal the taxi? Have you told Lao Wang?" The proprietress quickly started stir-frying. "Yes." "Did you call the police?" "No, the car belongs to the company anyway, the company will find a way, and I just need 2 days off. Rest. You haven't even earned enough money to pay for your son's tuition for next semester. Why are you taking a rest?" The lady boss glared at him and said, "The car was stolen from you. Don't you have any responsibility? Call the police immediately." After being scolded by his wife, the man did not get angry. He took out his cell phone and called the police. The fried noodles were ready, and the proprietress served them on a plate to Qin Huai. Qin Huai looked at the steaming fried noodles, picked up a pair of disposable chopsticks, and was about to start eating when he heard the man say, "Hey, Yao Yao Ling Mai. My car was stolen. It's a taxi, and it's not worth much. What do you think that Bao Pilong wants? It just happened not long ago." "Yes, the license plate number is Chongqing A69T12. Qin Huai picked up a piece of fried noodles with chopsticks, but before he could put it into his mouth, he paused. Fuck. After realizing what was happening, Qin Huai ran away. If he remembered correctly, the license plate number of the taxi that Su Huaijuan took was Chongqing A69T12. "Hey! You haven't paid yet!" The proprietress yelled at Qin Huai's back. Qin Huai had already run a long way away, dialing the number as he ran. "Yang Jing, find a taxi, the license plate number is A69T12, hurry. Otherwise, something will happen. Give me a few minutes." There was a sound of keyboard tapping on the phone. After a while, glasses said, "Found it." Luckily it was a taxi, otherwise it wouldn't have been so fast. Although the monitoring and positioning system on the car was turned off, I still locked it easily. Stop talking nonsense. Where is the car? It's still moving. I'll transfer the real-time location to your phone. After hanging up the call, Qin Huai opened the encryption system and found the program sent by glasses. Above is a topographic map of Chongqing. A red dot represents the taxi, which is currently moving at a constant speed. Qin Huai immediately raised his hand to stop a taxi, got in the car, fastened his seatbelt, and said to the driver, "Go in the direction of the boundary wind." The driver frowned slightly when he heard this, but said nothing and lightly stepped on the accelerator. Seeing the driver driving steadily and calmly, Qin Huai could not help but urge him, "Master, please hurry up. I'm in a hurry." This sentence seemed to activate some specific program. The taxi driver was cheered up and immediately stepped on the accelerator. The motor roared, and the car worth tens of thousands of dollars was actually driving like a racing car, quickly overtaking vehicles going in the same direction. Qin Huai stared at the location on the map. The distance between the two was shortening rapidly. After crossing a Yangtze River bridge, Qin Huai saw the taxi with license plate number Chongqing A69T12. "Master, slow down and follow that taxi," Qin Huai said, pointing at the taxi. The driver looked at Qin Huai suspiciously, perhaps thinking that Qin Huai didn't look like a bad person, so he didn't ask any more questions. He lightly stepped on the brakes, slowed down, and followed him not far away. The taxi drove further and further away, and after getting off the Jiefeng overpass, it actually turned into a suburban road. The driver was unhappy. "Brother, what on earth are you doing? It's so late, and you're driving to such a remote place. It's almost time for me to return the car. I can't pick up any passengers when I go back, so I can only leave the car empty. It's a big loss." Qin Huai turned his head to look at the driver. His expression became solemn. "I need your cooperation to patrol and handle the case." He had no choice but to do so, but unfortunately he was short of money, otherwise he would have just thrown out some red bills, looking cool and domineering. Why would he have to make up lies? Investigation. The taxi driver was probably also a big fan of police and gangster movies. After hearing what Qin Huai said, he didn't even ask for his ID. His eyes lit up as he asked, "What crime did the person in the taxi commit?" "Human traffickers, trafficking women and children," Qin Huai said casually. "Grass." The driver was immediately furious and cursed. "Human traffickers are completely devoid of conscience. If you catch one, you should shoot him. This time I meet him, I will never let him go." As he said that, he turned off the lights and said to Qin Huai, "Are you planning to play the long game and catch the big fish, find their lair, and catch them all in one fell swoop?" Qin Huai nodded. "That's right." He really thought so. "Don't worry, I won't let you down." The driver was so confident that, relying on his skilled driving skills, he actually stayed far behind and did not lose the car, nor was he discovered by the taxi in front. This one took another half an hour. We have completely entered the suburbs. The surroundings are desolate and silent, with weeds everywhere. The taxi stopped. Without Qin Huai's instructions, the driver immediately stopped the engine, put his hands on the steering wheel, lowered his head and hunched over, looking from a distance. When Qin Huai unbuckled his seatbelt and got out of the car, the driver asked in a low voice, "Little brother, do you want my help?" "No, you should pay attention to your own safety and don't get discovered. After I rescue their hostages, I will need you to send us back." Qin Huai said this and disappeared into the darkness. The driver sat in the car, looking excited but also a little nervous. Boo Tilder. His phone suddenly lit up. In the chat software group, a person with the nickname "Call Me Lao Wang" sent a message to everyone, "Everyone, please pay attention. A brother's car was stolen. If you have seen it, please contact the company or call the police directly. The license plate number is 69T12. The human traffickers who gave birth to a son without a skin yang not only abducted women and children, but also stole taxes." The driver cursed angrily and suddenly froze. 69T12. "Shit, isn't that the one I followed?" He immediately replied to the message in the group. But after writing just 2 words, he quickly pressed the delete key. During the inspection process, relevant information cannot be leaked. It must be kept confidential. Otherwise, what if something goes wrong? There are many taxi drivers talking in the group, and the screen is filled with chat messages. The driver watched and smiled smugly. Hey, you guys can only brag and talk nonsense in the group, but I'm different. I'm directly involved. Maybe I can get a bravery award tomorrow, and then I'll show off to you guys. Chapter 14. I want to be polite then. This place is nearly 40 kilometers away from the urban area of Chongqing. The weeds are very lush. There was no one around, and the darkness was so dead silent that it made people feel creepy. There was a faint light coming from near the foot of the mountain. It is an abandoned cement factory. It must have been there for a long time. It is old and mottled. Under years of wind and sun, the concrete pillars have been corroded, and many rusty steel bars are exposed outside. Qin Huai came quietly, but did not see anyone outside the abandoned factory. But he knew that there must be secret sentries hiding. Qin Huai squatted there without moving, took out a pair of headphones from his arms and put them on his ears. Dee. There was a slight dripping sound coming from the earphones, which was irregular, sometimes long and sometimes short. Qin Huai squinted his eyes and listened, then the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The organization issued an order using Morse code to destroy Neuer's hideout in Chongqing and leave no one alive. This means that he can completely free himself. A hint of murderous intent quietly bloomed in his eyes. At some point, Qin Huai already had a wooden dagger in his hand. There was a ferocious wolf head pattern engraved on the hilt of the dagger, as red as blood. With a pair of deep eyes, Qin Huai observed keenly, and soon locked onto a big tree near the abandoned factory. He crouched and approached silently. When he was only 10 meters away, he suddenly stepped forward and rushed forward like a ghost. The moment of approaching, he twisted his waist with force and swung his right hand horizontally quickly. Laugh. The dagger slashed past, and a man fell to the ground, holding his neck. He died without knowing what happened. The bloody smell slowly spread. Qin Huai didn't even look at the corpse. He walked past quickly, waited quietly for a few seconds against the wall, and then grabbed the bulge on the wall with both hands and climbed over easily, with movements as agile as a cat. After landing, he rolled forward twice and stood silently behind a stone pillar. The location is just in the shadow area where the light cannot reach. Qin Huai tilted his head slightly and looked ahead. Broken bricks and stones were scattered all over the ground, covered with a thick layer of dust and messy footprints. At the corner of the stairs, two men were talking in low voices, occasionally making obscene laughs. One of them was a man who stole a taxi and pretended to be a taxi driver. Damn it, I almost screwed it up. He, luckily you are smart, otherwise I would just have to mourn for you. Stop gloating over my misfortune. We are in the same group. If something happens to me, you can't escape. It's a pity about that woman. She's so damn beautiful. If only I could have some fun with her, he. I still want to have some fun. After I finish this job, I'm going to have some fun. Qin Huai pursed his lips. Sorry, you don't have a chance. He raised his foot and kicked a piece of gravel away. Snap. What's that sound? The two men were instantly alert, drew their weapons together, and carefully approached the place where the sound came from. Qin Huai silently calculated the distance between the two people, and at a certain moment, he bypassed the stone pillar and launched an attack from behind them. Thump. There were two consecutive sounds of heavy objects falling to the ground. Qin Huai looked at the two corpses indifferently, wiped the blood off the wooden dagger on one of them, and walked towards the second floor. There will be no further obstacles. Qin Huai went up to the second floor and saw a closed iron door on the right. The messy footsteps spread straight to the iron gate and disappeared. He held the dagger in his right hand, strode forward, slowly raised his leg, and after gathering strength for a few seconds, he kicked out with force. Boom! Loud noise and tremor. Qin Huai kicked the rusty iron door down, causing it to fall down and splashing a lot of dust. Through the diffused dust, the scene before him made Qin Huai's eyes filled with murderous intent that even more violent. The whole room looked like a slaughterhouse, and the air was filled with a strong smell of formaldehyde. There was a pool in the middle, filled with liquid, with several corpses soaked in it, floating up and down. There were men, women, young and old, with their facial features distorted and hideous, their eyes wide open, retaining the fear before death. Surrounding the pool, there are 5 simple operating tables, covered with dark red blood stains. I don't know how many people have lost their lives because of this. On one of the operating tables lay the unconscious Su Huaijuan. Being stripped naked, her perfect figure is truly exciting. But in this place where bloodstains are everywhere, there is a weird feeling. Two men in white coats, holding scalpels, looked like they were about to take action. Who are you? There were 8 people in the room. Except for the 2 people in white coats, the remaining 6 people were all wearing uniform black clothes. There is a bloody heart pattern on the chest. Qin Huai's appearance caught them off guard, and they were shocked and angry. You rats who hide in the stinking ditches and secretly eat people, are you worthy of the name Newer? Qin Huai grinned. But everyone present could feel the extremely strong murderous intent from Qin Huai's smile. Kill him! A man in a white coat shouted angrily. Immediately, all 6 of them drew their weapons and headed straight for Qin Huai. But as soon as they moved, Qin Huai disappeared from the spot. Laugh. Hot blood splattered. The 3 men in black trembled all over and their weapons fell to the ground. Their pupils dilated rapidly. There were clear bloodstains on the neck. Kill 3 people instantly. You? The man in the white coat who gave the order to kill Qin Huai was horrified, and when his gaze shifted to the dagger in Qin Huai's hand, his pupils contracted violently. Blood wolf dagger. You are never knight. The man in the white coat screamed in shock and immediately turned around to run away. It rose to prominence internationally in a short period of time, and then suddenly disappeared without a trace. A blood wolf dagger made him famous. How many internationally recognized strong men have died at Bai's hands? When the man in white coat recognized the blood wolf dagger, he no longer had the slightest desire to resist and only wanted to escape. Qin Huai certainly wouldn't let him escape easily. He picked up a pair of blood-stained scissors from the operating table and threw it hard, and it went straight into the thigh of the man in the white coat. The man in the white coat screamed and fell to the ground. Qin Huai no longer paid any attention to him. His figure was like a ghost. Wherever he went, blood would be spilled and corpses would fall to the ground. In just a few breaths, except for the man in the white coat who was holding his thigh and wailing, the other 5 people all died. No, don't come over here. Let me go. No matter how much it costs. The man in the white coat was so frightened that he backed away repeatedly. Qin Huai walked slowly, admiring the despair clearly reflected in the eyes of the man in the white coat. They begged you like this at that time, right? But did you let them go? Qin Huai looked down at the man in the white coat and slowly placed his hand on his head. No. No matter how cruel a demon is, he will be afraid when facing death. Click. Qin Huai twisted his hands, and the man in the white coat's head turned a full circle. He died of suffocation. Putting away the blood wolf dagger, Qin Huai focused his attention on Su Huaijuan. He patted Su Huaijuan's face and shouted, Miss Su, do you want to put on some clothes? Of course, Su Huaijuan could not respond to Qin Huai. Don't you like wearing clothes? Then I won't be polite. Qin Huai grinned, licked his lips, and reached out to slowly unbutton his clothes one by one. Chapter 15. There are still many good people in this world. Qin Huai had to admit that a beautiful woman was lying naked in front of him, and he could do whatever he wanted without any resistance. It is a great test for any man. Especially since Qin Huai had just eaten meat not long ago and was enjoying the taste. After much difficulty, Qin Huai put clothes and pants on Su Huaijuan. He breathed heavily and felt that it was more difficult than taking down Newer's lair. Just for this one night, you already owe me 2 lives. Qin Huai, wearing only boxer shorts and a white vest, carried Su Huaijuan on his shoulders and calmly left the abandoned cement factory. He has reported the results. As for whether to allow the cleaners to enter or hand it over to the inspection department to handle, that is the business of the higher-ups and has nothing to do with him. The driver in the taxi was still waiting anxiously. When he saw someone coming from afar, he was startled and nervously clenched the water cup in his hand, ready to smash it at any time. When he saw clearly that it was Qin Huai, he breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, master. Qin Huai put Su Huaijuan in the back seat and thanked the taxi driver. The driver glanced at Su Huaijuan, who was wearing Qin Huai's clothes, and asked in a low voice, Where are the human traffickers? She has been subdued. My colleagues will deal with it later. I have to send her home first and then report to the inspection bureau. Qin Huai lied without blinking. You have worked hard, little brothers. It is because of you that we ordinary people feel safe. The driver gave Qin Huai a thumbs up, then started the car, stepped on the accelerator, turned the steering wheel, and returned along the same route. When we returned to the city, it was already past 2 in the morning. Su Huaijuan whimpered and slowly woke up. Then she screamed loudly, "Stop the car! Stop the car now! Or I will call the police!" The sound scared the driver so much that his hands trembled and the front of the car almost hit the roadside guardrail. Qin Huai soothed, "Be quiet, you are safe now." Qin Huai. When Su Huaijuan saw Qin Huai looking back at her, she was stunned, her eyes full of confusion, not understanding what was going on. "Do you know each other?" the driver asked casually. Qin Huai smiled and nodded, "I know him." The driver grinned. "You're so lucky, little girl. To have met someone who is willing to risk his life for you." Su Huaijuan still hadn't come back to his senses. He stared at Qin Huai blankly, his mind going blank. Soon after, the taxi turned a complicated road, entered the urban village, and stopped downstairs of Qin Huai's rental house. Qin Huai got off the car and thanked the driver. He asked, "Master, you didn't even look at my ID, and you trust me so much." The driver waved his hand. "It doesn't matter whether you are on patrol or not. Following so far in the night and rescuing someone is enough to prove that you are not a bad person, so I am happy to do a good deed and consider it as accumulating merit." After saying that, he drove away without asking for any money. There are still many good people in this world. Qin Huai watched the taxi go away, and remembered the license plate number of another taxi in his heart. Then he said to Su Huaijuan, "Let's go, get in and take a seat." Su Huaijuan followed Qin Huai back to the rental house. Qin Huai went to the closet to get clothes, and put them on himself without avoiding Su Huaijuan. It was not until this time that Su Huaijuan realized that the clothes he was wearing were no longer the same ones he had worn before. I touched my chest subconsciously, and my heart began to tremble. Qin Huai said quickly, "Don't shout, otherwise if the landlord knocks on the door again, I won't have a reason to deal with it." Su Huaijuan opened his mouth and closed it again, his eyes filled with a very complicated look. Qin Huai poured a glass of water for Su Huaijuan and said, "I know you have a lot of doubts. Let me tell you slowly." After briefly recounting what had happened, Su Huaijuan covered his mouth with his hands, his eyes wide open, filled with horror. Who wouldn't be afraid when being targeted by such an evil force? "Don't worry too much. I've called the police. They will all be arrested and will never do anything to harm you again." Qin Huai comforted. Su Huaijuan stared at Qin Huai blankly again, and as she looked, her pretty face suddenly blushed. A pair of watery eyes, full of shyness and charm. "What did you put on me?" Cough. Qin Huai coughed dryly and touched his nose. "Those people don't have the patience to take it off for you slowly. They just cut it open with a knife. You can't wear it anymore." So. Su Huaijuan was so embarrassed that she couldn't raise her head. Her heart was trembling and she wished she could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. She had been pure and innocent for more than 20 years, but in just one night, she was seen naked and touched all over by a man she had just met. The air is quiet. There was a hint of charm in the awkward atmosphere. After a while, Qin Huai took the initiative to say, "Let me take you back. This time I'll take you home." "Good." Su Huaijuan nodded, his voice as soft as a mosquito. Perhaps it was after experiencing these things that Su Huaijuan couldn't help but develop a sense of dependence on Qin Huai. He no longer maintained the so-called safe distance from Qin Huai. They stood side by side, like a couple. But he remained silent. The two men left the village in the city and came to the bustling street full of the atmosphere of fireworks again. Qin Huai found the mobile stall and heard the fat man saying that the inspection was very efficient and he got his car back so quickly. "I can go out as usual tomorrow and continue to earn tuition for my children." Su Huaijuan looked at Qin Huai, his eyes moving. Qin Huai smiled, scanned the code to pay for the noodles, and waved the phone screen at the proprietress. "I paid." The proprietress smiled sheepishly and handed Qin Huai a fast food box. "I reheated your fried noodles for you. They are still warm. Try it. If it doesn't taste good, I'll make you another portion." "No need to do it again, thank you." Qin Huai carried the lunchbox and got into a taxi with Su Huaijuan. Around 3 in the morning, when it was late at night and everyone was asleep, the taxi stopped outside the Phoenix Lake Villa district. "You live here?" Qin Huai was a little surprised. Phoenix Lake Villa district is one of the most expensive villa districts in Chongqing. It is full of single-family villas with a price of around 60 million yuan, which is something that ordinary people cannot even dream of in their lifetime. I didn't expect that this woman was actually a rich woman. Su Huaijuan smiled without saying anything, got out of the taxi and walked towards the gate. When the security guard in the guard room saw Su Huaijuan, he immediately took the initiative to open the door, but found that Su Huaijuan was wearing men's clothes and was followed by a handsome young man. For a moment, sourness spread and jealousy filled my heart. Under the jealous gaze of the security guard, Qin Huai and Su Huaijuan left along the winding but wide road, and finally came to a 3-story villa facing the lake. "Miss!" A group of bodyguards in suits shouted and quickly surrounded them. Then they were stunned for a moment. A pair of eyes looked Su Huaijuan up and down, and then their gazes fell on Qin Huai, and they couldn't help but imagine all kinds of plots that were not suitable for children. The leading bodyguard immediately pulled Su Huaijuan aside, and the remaining bodyguards surrounded Qin Huai with cold faces. Just as Su Huaijuan was about to speak, the bodyguard shouted coldly, "Catch him." Chapter 16. Young people still need to work hard. The bodyguards discovered Su Huaijuan was kidnapped shortly after he was abducted, but they found no clues after searching the villa inside and outside. They were already as anxious as ants on a hot pan. Now that Su Huaijuan is back, his condition is not right, so the bodyguards naturally think that he was bullied by Qin Huai. No matter what the truth is, they have to capture Qin Huai first and then investigate slowly. There were a total of 10 bodyguards, with a lot of experience in joint combat. They surrounded Qin Huai from different directions. Under the command of the leading bodyguard, the encirclement was quickly tightened and everyone's muscles tensed. Qin Huai couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He could tell at a glance that these bodyguards should all be retired soldiers, and they were also very extraordinary when they were in the army. Their swollen temples, thick calluses on their hands, and the attacking posture they are making at this moment are enough to prove their extraordinariness. Even so, Nuer's people were able to kidnap Su Huaijuan quietly, which shows Nuer's ability and background. No wonder it is still thriving despite numerous international crackdowns. Drink! The 2 bodyguards on the east shouted and took the lead in attacking Qin Huai. Before the fist arrived, the strong wind had already hit. Qin Huai was not in a hurry. He raised his hand and slapped the 2 fists when they were about to hit him. With 2 slaps, his palms hit the wrists of the 2 bodyguards. Then he jumped up with both feet, his body in the air, dodging the sweeping leg, and taking advantage of the lack of force, he turned his body 180 degrees and kicked out with both feet. The 2 bodyguards were kicked back, but Qin Huai had already landed steadily. The next second, his figure disappeared from the bodyguard's sight. What? The bodyguard standing next to Su Huaijuan's pupils shrank, and he caught Qin Huai's figure with difficulty, and subconsciously raised his hand to resist. After the fists and palms collided, he involuntarily retreated more than 10 steps. When I stopped, I felt my hands shaking uncontrollably. Qin Huai's punch actually caused his arms to temporarily lose strength. The bodyguard looked very unhappy. Snort. A dull scream was heard, and the bodyguard's expression became even uglier. Except for him, everyone else had been knocked down by Qin Huai. This. The bodyguard's pupils constricted in disbelief. He is very clear about the strength of the people under his command. If he hadn't called them together in the first place, there would have been no problem for these people to go abroad and join the mercenary world. But in front of this seemingly ordinary young man. 28 seconds. Didn't even last half a minute. Qin Huai did not continue to attack and looked at Su Huaijuan. Su Huaijuan stared at him blankly. It was not that he had no reaction, but that everything happened too suddenly and he had no time to react. It seems that I am destined not to have dinner tonight. Qin Huai shook his head and sighed. The fast food box had already fallen to the ground, and the fried noodles were scattered all over the floor. I've already sent you home, I'll go back first. Qin Huai said to Su Huaijuan. Su Huaijuan blinked his eyes, without any thoughts in his mind, and subconsciously said, "Don't you want to go in and sit down?" After she finished speaking, her cheeks began to heat up. It's inconvenient this late. Qin Huai waved his hand and turned away. Etc. Su Huaijuan trotted after him. Qin Huai stared at the rabbit jumping wildly without a mask, his eyes wide open. You? Su Huaijuan was so embarrassed that she quickly covered her chest with both hands, her pretty face flushed red. Leave me your phone number. This. Sujuan didn't care about being shy. He looked up and looked directly into Qin Huai's eyes. You must stay. All right. Qin Huai laughed, took out his cell phone and handed it to Sujuan. Sujuan burst out laughing. I asked you to leave your number, and you really gave me your phone. Just teasing you. Qin Huai joked. The atmosphere instantly became relaxed. Sujuan's face was filled with a bright smile, which made the late summer night especially beautiful. After working in the bar for 3 months, Qin Huai's daily routine has changed to sleeping during the day and going out at night. After returning from the Phoenix Lake Villa district, Qin Huai also had trouble falling asleep. For some reason, I thought of Sujuan's perfect body that was like a work of art, and I felt hot all over. Immediately, he couldn't help but think of Lu Qingxue. They are both in golden proportions, but Lu Qingxue's legs are longer, and Sujuan's breasts are 1 cup size bigger than Lu Qingxue's. Qin Huai was lost in thought, took a cold shower, and tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Qin Huai dawdled until the morning star rose, then he yawned and fell into a sleepy state. When I woke up, it was dusk again. Qin Huai got up, rubbed his messy hair, sat on the bed in a daze for a long time, went to the bathroom to take a shower and change his tea. After taking a shower, Qin Huai began to pack his luggage. Since I said I would go to the Lu family to eat and drink for free, I definitely want to continue to rent this house. There wasn't much luggage, so 1 suitcase was more than enough. After Qin Huai had packed up, he knocked on the door of the landlady next door. After a moment, the door opened, and the landlady, who was wearing a bright red dress and had short wavy golden hair, looked straight at Qin Huai. Qin Huai smiled and said, Sister, I want to cancel the lease. Cancel the lease. The landlady was startled when she heard this and asked, Why? I have to move to another place because of work. This place is too far from my workplace. The landlady looked suspicious. Really? Really? Qin Huai's face was full of sincerity. The landlady was silent for a moment, stretched out her hand to hook her hair, and her expression became a little embarrassed. Qin Huai, you don't have a girlfriend yet, right? I have 4 houses, 2 cars, and several million in savings. If you don't want to work hard anymore, tell me. Qin Huai was silent for a long time, and then said seriously, Sister, I think young people still need to work hard. How can you just lie down at such a young age? Are there not enough people lying down now? 1 more person won't make a difference. The landlady said as she was about to grab Qin Huai's hand, Come, I'll show you something nice. Just let me try harder, sister. Qin Huai fled with the suitcase. The landlady was so angry that she stamped her feet repeatedly. You ignorant little brat, get out. I won't return a single cent of the rent deposit to you. Qin Huai escaped downstairs, breathed a sigh of relief, and lit a cigarette to calm himself down. Damn, the loss is too great. Qin Huai felt a pang of pain when he thought of the rent and deposit that he had lost. After finishing a cigarette, Qin Huai strode away angrily. Lu Qingxue, you must pay me back 10-fold or 100-fold what you owe me. With the intention of collecting a debt, Qin Huai took a taxi and went straight to the Lu family manor. But he couldn't even get into the manor gate. What? Lu Zenian went abroad. Lu Qingxue moved out of the house. Qin Huai widened his eyes in disbelief. So what? Is that so? Is it possible to hide from him to this extent? No wonder they say the richer people are, the stingier they are. What's wrong with having 1 more mouth for me? Will I bankrupt the Lu group? Qin Huai was indignant and asked the security guard where Lu Qingxue had moved to. The guard waved his hand, said nothing, and slammed the door. At this moment, Qin Huai felt like he was abandoned. Qin Huai stood there in a daze for a long time, with his facial features distorted. Okay, Lu Qingxue, hide. I told you to hide. Every action has its consequences, and I am your retribution. I want to see where you can hide. Even if you are at the ends of the earth, I will find you. Qin Huai dialed a number and shouted with bared teeth, Glasses, check the whereabouts of Lu Qingxue from the Lu group. She moved out of the Lu family. I want to know where she is within 3 minutes. A mysterious laugh came from the phone. Brother, you don't care about current affairs at all. Lu Qingxue has taken over as the chairman of the Lu group. No need to check, I'll tell you where she is now. As he listened, Qin Huai opened his mouth wide. Phoenix Lake Villa number 9 isn't he that Sujuan's home? Chapter 17 Do you know each other? The sunset is beautiful, but it is near dusk. Qin Huai dragged his suitcase, took another taxi and headed towards the Phoenix Lake Villa district. At this time, in Villa number 9 of Phoenix Lake, Lu Qingxue, who had just become the chairman of the Lu Group, was busy working on a pile of documents that was piled up like a mountain. Only now did she realize how difficult it was to manage a group company with a market value of tens of billions. Su Huaijuan, wearing loose casual clothes, sat next to him, with his legs bent and his smooth chin resting lightly on his knees. His eyes were blurred and it was unknown what he was thinking. Sometimes his face flushed, and sometimes he smiled shyly. Lu Qingxue put down her pen and rubbed her swollen temples. She noticed something was wrong with her bestie and asked curiously, Junjun, what's wrong with you today? You're in a daze for no apparent reason and your expression is weird. Are you horny? What nonsense are you talking about? Su Huaijuan rolled his eyes, pursed his lips, and said, Qingxue, I met a very interesting person last night. Lu Qingxue yelled, okay, you're still saying you're not horny. You usually don't go out at night and go to bed around 10 o'clock. How can you have the chance to meet someone particularly interesting? Tell me the truth. Oh, if you say that again I won't pay attention to you. Su Huaijuan was so embarrassed. Seeing this, Lu Qingxue clicked her tongue and said, it's over, Junjun. I think you have fallen in love. No. Su Huaijuan quickly retorted, pretending to be angry, do you want to listen to me? Listen, you say. Lu Qingxue acted like a primary school student and sat very properly. Su Huaijuan organized his words and said, after I fell asleep last night, I was confused. What? You were kidnapped. Lu Qingxue stood up in shock, and pulled Su Huaijuan to look up and down, very nervous. Are you okay? Are you injured? Did you suffer any harm? Oh, no, don't interrupt me, just listen to me, someone saved me. Su Huaijuan told Lu Qingxue everything that happened last night without hiding anything. The two knew each other when they were in college and have been best friends for many years. They have become very close and have no secrets that they cannot share with each other. Lu Qingxue covered her mouth, her face full of shock. She never thought that her best friend would have such a thrilling experience last night. Oh my god. Junjun, you. Don't worry, I'm standing here in front of you in perfect condition. He said the bad guys have been caught and won't hurt me again. Su Huaijuan comforted Lu Qingxue in return, besides, you have moved in with me now. The two of us have more than 30 bodyguards in total. There will definitely be no danger. Lu Qingxue nodded and suddenly realized, so, that man saw you naked and touched you all over. Su Huaijuan's pretty face instantly turned red, and she lowered her head shyly, yeah. Lu Qingxue stroked her forehead, what is this? You? Before she finished speaking, she thought of herself. Junjun was just seen and touched by others, but she was eaten up. For a moment, Lu Qingxue felt a sense of sadness as if she were suffering from the same disease as others. Who is that man? Is he handsome? What's his name? Lu Qingxue asked with all her strength. Su Huaijuan was so embarrassed that she didn't notice her bestie's abnormality. She replied, he said he just lost his job. He's actually quite handsome, with a well-proportioned body, and looks very explosive. You're not really in love with him, are you? A hero saves a beauty, and the beauty falls in love with him. Lu Qingxue asked curiously, what's his name? His name is Qin. Why are you here again? Su Huaijuan's words were interrupted by a loud shout from downstairs. The two girls' attention was drawn and they walked to their window and looked down. After seeing the tall young man dragging the suitcase, their expressions changed instantly. Lu Qingxue's pretty face turned pale and she began to grit her teeth. How did this bastard know I was here? He actually followed me here. In contrast, Su Huaijuan's beautiful eyes sparkled, and her chubby face blushed like a ripe apple. I felt happy and delighted at Qin Huai's appearance. Qin Huai was surrounded by bodyguards again. But there are more people. In addition to Su Huaijuan's 10 bodyguards, there were a dozen unfamiliar bodyguards. Qin Huai guessed that it should be Lu Qingxue's. After all, he has suffered losses, and his identity is different from before, so it is normal for him to have bodyguards around him. Qin Huai did not use any harsh force against Su Huaijuan's bodyguards last night, so these bodyguards only suffered a little and were not seriously injured. Qin Huai grinned at one of the bodyguards, I am Su Huaijuan's savior. As Su Huaijuan's bodyguard, you treat me like this. The bodyguard gritted his teeth and had nothing to say. At the window, Lu Qingxue didn't hear the conversation between Qin Huai and the bodyguard clearly. She was afraid that Qin Huai would say something nonsense, so she shouted, "Let him in." Qin Huai raised his head, met Lu Qingxue's gaze, and grinned, revealing a row of white teeth. I thought to myself, you scumbag, go hide. Humph, let's see where you can hide. Lu Qingxue frowned and turned away from the window. Su Huaijuan opened his mouth and wanted to say something to Qin Huai, but he felt embarrassed again. He didn't say a word and retracted his head away from the window. Qin Huai smiled at the group of unfriendly bodyguards and said, "Then I will go in." After saying this, he dragged his suitcase and took a step forward without recognizing any relatives. The group of bodyguards looked at each other, feeling secretly resentful. Lu Qingxue's bodyguard couldn't stand this kind of provocation and asked, "Old Lin, do you want to find a chance to deal with that guy? Don't mess around, this guy is very strong." The bodyguard called Lao Lin looked solemn. Whether he was in the army or after becoming Su Huaijuan's bodyguard, he had never encountered such a powerful character. Lu Qingxue's bodyguard asked in surprise, "What's going on? Have you ever fought? Can't even deal with you." Lao Lin shook his head and smiled bitterly. The bodyguards looked solemn. Su Huaijuan and Lu Qingxue are good friends, and the security personnel of both sides are familiar with each other. They are very clear about Lao Lin's strength. Someone who even Lao Lin can't deal with is definitely not an ordinary person. In the villa, Lu Qingxue and Su Huaijuan went downstairs together. Two stunning beauties standing together form a beautiful landscape. From the perspective of Qin Huai, it is a pleasing sight. Lu Qingxue had a stern face, like an iceberg. Su Huaijuan's pretty face was red, and she said to Qin Huai shyly, "You are here." Lu Qingxue was startled when she heard this, and then looked at her best friend in disbelief. "Junjun, the person you are talking about, isn't it him?" "Yes." Su Huaijuan nodded and said, "Qingxue, let me introduce you. His name is Qin Huai." No need for introduction. Qin Huai waved his hand with a smile. Su Huaijuan was stunned and asked, "Do you know each other?" Qin Huai smiled but said nothing. "More than just knowing each other. You have seen and touched her, but she has slept with her. Chapter 18. You can't like him. Come with me." Lu Qingxue turned around with a cold face and walked upstairs. The round curves twisted and turned, making Qin Huai's heart slightly hot. He smiled at the dazed Su Huaijuan, untied the suitcase, walked upstairs, and followed Lu Qingxue into a room on the second floor. As soon as he entered the door, Qin Huai smelled a faint fragrance in the air. He was very familiar with this scent. It was not the smell of perfume, but the body odor that naturally emanated from Lu Qingxue. Lu Qingxue closed the door and said sternly, "You despicable villain, you deliberately approached my best friend. What on earth do you want to do?" "What do you mean by intentional approach?" Qin Huai said unhappily, "It was just a coincidence. If it weren't for me, you should be crying and eating your meal now instead of scolding me here." Lu Qingxue paused for a moment and said irritably, "Get out of here right now and don't show up in front of me again from now on." "That won't do." Qin Huai dragged a chair over and sat down, folded his arms across his chest, crossed his legs, and looked like a scoundrel. "You want to disown me just by pulling up your pants? How can there be such a good thing in the world? You?" Lu Qingxue's teeth were grinding, like a mouse stealing food. "Do you believe me or not, I will have someone beat you up so badly that you can't take care of yourself." "No." Qin Huai glanced at Lu Qingxue and said with a grin, "Unless you kill me on the spot, everyone in the city will know tomorrow that the daughter of the Lu group, no, it should be the new chairman of the Lu group, slept with me and then abandoned me. Son of a bitch." Lu Qingxue's eyes turned red and she was shaking with anger. If this word gets out, regardless of whether it is true or not, the Lu Group's stock price will definitely be seriously affected by public opinion. Not only that, there will also be many people who think they are very powerful and will flock to you. They would think, if a mere bartender can sleep with Lu Qingxue, why can't they? 20 million. Lu Qingxue's chest rose and fell rapidly due to her rapid breathing. She forced herself to control her emotions and said, "This is my bottom line, not a cent more." Qin Huai saw Lu Qingxue's excitement and thought to himself that it was bad. It was a bit too stimulating. This woman is poisoned by a heartbreaking poison. Every time her emotions fluctuate violently, she could die. He put away his nonchalant expression, stared at Lu Qingxue with deep eyes, and spoke slowly in a low, bubbling voice. "Qingxue, do you really think I did it for money?" Lu Qingxue was slightly startled and her expression became unnatural. She had always thought Qin Huai's eyes were beautiful, and the deep affection revealed in Qin Huai's eyes at this moment made her heart tremble involuntarily. Turning her head away, not daring to look at Qin Huai's eyes that were so affectionate that they could even look at a dog, Lu Qingxue said, "Don't say anything like you like me, you don't deserve it. Only a good match is the best destination." Qin Huai said, "I admit that what you said makes sense. We are indeed not well matched." Lu Qingxue was surprised. This shameless guy actually agreed with her point of view? I thought he would say something like, 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west of the river, don't bully the young who are poor, don't bully the middle-aged who are poor, don't bully the old who are poor, and the dead are the greatest. But then, she saw Qin Huai thinking and saying, "In front of my Beijing Qin family's eldest son, you, a small chairman of the Lu group, are indeed not worth mentioning, but it doesn't matter. I believe you will work hard and one day you will be worthy of me." At this moment, Lu Qingxue's toes almost dug through the soles of her slippers. She had met many men before, no matter they were business elites or talented men from wealthy families, which one of them was not well-mannered and polite in front of her. Before she met Qin Huai, she would never have imagined that there were such shameless people in the world. Lu Qingxue smiled. "Suddenly I felt that it was extremely boring and meaningless to get entangled with such a shameless little guy from the lower class. I actually admire you a little bit. Aren't you afraid that Chen Huaidong will find out that you are pretending to be a rich young master and then throw you to the bottom of the river to feed the fish?" Lu Qingxue said coldly, "Don't say he doesn't dare. This world has never been equal. There are some dark sides that people like you at the bottom of society can't even imagine. Yes, I'm on the bottom floor, and you're on the top floor, 3 or 4 floors high." Qin Huai was too lazy to argue with her and said casually, "Whenever he investigates me, that's his business. Anyway, I have to live here before I'm sunk to the bottom of the river." Lu Qingxue glared at him, "Don't even think about it." Qin Huai spread his hands and said, "I said last night that I've quit my job and I've given up my rental house. You can't let me live on the streets, can you? Then I can only leave the two of us." "Shut up!" Lu Qingxue yelled angrily, but her emotions were no longer very different. Anyway, Qin Huai has a hold on her life. The absurd events of their one night must not be leaked out. This is my best friend's home. Why do you live here without his consent? Simple. Qin Huai turned the doorknob with his backhand, poked his head out and shouted, "Su Huaijuan, I have nowhere to live. Can I stay at your house temporarily?" Su Huaijuan was sitting on the sofa in the living room. When he heard Qin Huai's question, he was stunned for a moment and nodded almost subconsciously, okay. Qin Huai retracted his head with satisfaction and smiled at Lu Qingxue. "Look, the owner of the house has agreed." Jun. Lu Qingxue stamped her feet in anger, rushed out of the room, and went downstairs. She pulled Su Huaijuan and said, "How could you allow that bastard to stay? He is a despicable and shameless person. It would be very dangerous for us to be alone in the same room with a man and a woman. Don't you still have it? That's double jeopardy." Su Huaijuan blinked and stared at Lu Qingxue. "Qingxue, what is your relationship with him? What relationship can we have?" Feeling a little guilty when Su Huaijuan looked at her, Lu Qingxue stiffened her neck and said, "We can't let him live here anyway." Su Huaijuan smiled, took Lu Qingxue's hand and said, "Qin Huai is a good fighter. You will feel safe with him. Don't you hate having bodyguards following you? As long as Qin Huai is here, he can defeat thousands of troops by himself. And there are thousands of troops. Did he feed you some kind of medicine?" "Oh, it's true. I saw it with my own eyes last night. Uncle Lin and his 10 men were no match for Qin Huai alone. It's better to have one person around than a group of people, right?" Su Huaijuan blushed as she spoke. "Besides, he is quite handsome. It is both pleasing to the eyes and prestigious to have him around." Pop. Lu Qingxue slapped her own fair and smooth forehead, her face full of speechlessness. I felt that Su Huaijuan must have lost his mind after the thrilling danger he experienced last night. At the same time, there was also a vague feeling of bitterness that was hard to explain. She is already married to Qin Huai, and her best friend seems to have a good impression of Qin Huai. I felt like my things were about to be taken away. Lu Qingxue's expression suddenly became very serious, and she said to Su Huaijuan word by word, Junjun, you can't like him. Chapter 19, 50,000 a month. Why? Su Huaijuan thought Lu Qingxue was weird. I've had this strange feeling since I saw you today. No reason. Anyway, you can't like him. He's dangerous. Where is the danger? Are you going to piss me off to death? Lu Qingxue wanted to go crazy. Su Huaijuan is a very simple and persistent person. Once he is interested in something, he will devote himself to it. The same goes for people. Just like now. After Qin Huai saved her twice and knowing that she had presented herself without reservation in front of Qin Huai, Su Huaijuan had already developed a sense of belonging in her heart. If she couldn't be given a reasonable and convincing reason, she would not easily erase her dependence on and affection for Qin Huai. Lu Qingxue was very upset. Just when she was thinking about what words to say to make Su Huaijuan give up completely, Su Huaijuan suddenly asked, do you like him? What? Lu Qingxue couldn't believe it. Me? Like him? What nonsense are you talking about? Su Huaijuan pursed his lips, but you didn't realize that you never get along with men alone, but just now you took the initiative to let him go to your bedroom with you. Lu Qingxue. She was stunned. Su Huaijuan is right. In the past, no matter what the situation was, she would never be alone with a man in a closed space. Even Lu Zenian had never entered her bedroom. If we want to talk about things, we do it in the living room. Even if she took the initiative to chat with Lu Zenian, the door was always wide open. But just now, she just asked Qin Huai to go to her bedroom so naturally. As if everything was normal. That's because Lu Qingxue wanted to refute, but she couldn't say anything. Never mind, whatever you want. I have a pile of documents to look through. Lu Qingxue rushed upstairs to the study and slammed the door with a loud bang. The bodyguard outside the villa quickly looked around, and when he saw nothing special, he looked away. Su Huaijuan pursed his lips, his eyes twinkling, and then went upstairs and walked towards Lu Qingxue's bedroom. In Lu Qingxue's bedroom, Qin Huai was looking around like a tourist. It's not like he hadn't been to a woman's boudoir before, but Lu Qingxue was different. The first woman he had any distanced contact with was special after all. Qin Huai looked at it and nodded. The items are neatly arranged and well organized. The desktop window is spotless and he loves cleanliness very much. She has the potential to be a good wife and mother. Su Huaijuan shouted at the door, Qin Huai. Yes, I am. Qin Huai hurried out and looked at Su Huaijuan carefully. The loose casual clothes could not hide her proud figure. Her long hair like a waterfall was combed into a high ponytail, which made her look fresh and youthful. With her cute face with baby fat, Qin Huai would believe that she was a high school student. Being looked at like this by Qin Huai, Su Huaijuan blushed and said, I'll take you to choose a room. Okay. Qin Huai nodded with a smile, thank you, Su Huaijuan, it's a good thing you are willing to take me in, otherwise I would have to sleep on the street. Why are you being so polite? Last night you. Thinking of last night, Su Huaijuan's heart trembled, feeling both scared and shy. Anyway, you are my savior. Su Huaijuan asked Qin Huai, the fourth floor has an open-air balcony and swimming pool. There are only rooms on the first, second and third floors. Qingxue and I both live on the second floor. Which floor do you want to live on? I'll live on the first floor. Qin Huai said. Su Huaijuan took Qin Huai downstairs, introduced the uses of several rooms, and then pointed to 3 vacant guest rooms and let Qin Huai choose. Qin Huai chose the first room near the stairs. The basic facilities are all available in the house. You just need to clean the dust and make the bed before you can move in. Are you satisfied? Tell me if you need anything. Su Huaijuan said. Qin Huai smiled and said, I'm very satisfied. Thank you. As for the rent. Su Huaijuan's cheeks puffed up when he heard this, and then he thought of something and said with a smile, 50,000 a month. 5. Qin Huai was speechless. He has lived in villas more luxurious than this one, so this is nothing special. 50,000 a month in rent is really outrageous. But she is the owner of the villa and has the power to set the price, so Qin Huai has nothing to say. But I am short of money, and the total amount of cash and money in the card is only less than 10,000 yuan. This is the only savings that the eldest son of the Qin family has. The salary paid by the organization was not small, but over the years, it was just transferred through his card and then to other places, without a penny left. Qin Huai sighed in his heart. A penny can make a hero fall, that's the reality. If it really doesn't work, I can only pay off my debt with my body. I thought so. Su Huaijuan saw Qin Huai's embarrassment and continued with a smile, I will hire you as my bodyguard. The monthly salary of 50,000 is just enough to cover the rent. What do you think? Bodyguard. Qin Huai blinked, the kind that fits the body. Su Huaijuan's pretty face turned red again, but she did not refute. Instead, she asked in a slightly coquettish tone, is it okay? Qin Huai stroked his chin, does it include food and lodging? Su Huaijuan nodded, bag. I have to spend money on daily basis, such as buying clothes, pants, shoes, recharging phone bills, etc. Is it included? Bag. Drink some fruit and smoke some cigarettes. Bag. Beer, melon seeds, mineral water. Bag. I'm tired and sleepy and want to find someone to sleep with. Bag. Su Huaijuan responded smoothly, and only reacted after he finished speaking. Looking at Qin Huai's narrow smile, his ears began to burn, and he said with a par, Qingxue said you are bad guy, now I believe it a little bit. Qin Huai was not convinced, if I were a bad guy, you would have. Before he could finish his words, Su Huaijuan fled and went upstairs quickly. Qin Huai clicked his tongue. Su Huaijuan is still more interesting when he is teased. Turning around, he went into the house and started cleaning. Qin Huai and Su Huaijuan didn't know that the study on the second floor had been quietly opened a crack. The scene closed silently. Lu Qingxue clenched her fists, gnashed her teeth, and said indignantly, you son of a bitch. You said you were doing this for me, but now you're flirting with Junjun. Go to hell, you despicable bastard. Achoo. Qin Huai, who had cleaned up the place quickly, suddenly sneezed. He wiped his nose and muttered, which beauty is thinking about me? Putting down the rag, Qin Huai looked around his new living environment. Compared with the rental housing in the urban village before, this place is completely different. The window faces Phoenix Lake. By now the sky had darkened and the street lights were on. The lights are reflected in the lake, creating ripples. A long row of willow trees stood by the lake, their branches swaying gently in the night breeze. There are also wooden benches under the willow trees, which is a good place to enjoy the cool air. The enjoyment of the rich is indeed beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Qin Huai turned over and sat on the windowsill, lit a cigarette, and smoked half of it himself and the other half. Ding dong. The phone made a slight sound. Qin Huai saw an email, but when he clicked it, he was required to enter a password. He tapped with both hands, seemingly randomly, and entered more than 20 characters. The password is correct. There was only a short line of text in this email. After a thorough investigation and analysis of Lu Qingxue's interpersonal relationships and social background, it was initially determined that the person who poisoned Lu Qingxue was Su Huaijuan. The review process has been initiated. When Qin Huai saw the end, his hands trembled and he couldn't help but open his mouth and twitch. Chapter 20. The future is promising. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Qin Huai didn't believe that Su Huaijuan could hide so deeply. Although the contact time was short, her natural facial expressions, language, movements and eyes all clearly showed that she was an innocent girl. Lu Qingxue is her best friend, and as long as there are no conflicts or interests between the two parties, Su Huaijuan would never do such a vicious thing. If it was said that it was done by Ling Siki, the eldest daughter of the Ling family, Qin Huai would not doubt it. But it is impossible for this investigation to be false. Although it is a preliminary judgment and the review procedure has been initiated, the result is likely to be correct. Then the only possibility is that Su Huaijuan unknowingly became the gun of the mastermind and unconsciously poisoned Lu Qingxue. Why would the mastermind go to so much trouble? Is there some secret hidden in Lu Qingxue? Qin Huai's brows were tightly knitted. This is obviously an unsolved mystery that requires him to explore in depth. A cigarette has burned out. Qin Huai put out the cigarette butt, shook his head, put aside the doubt for the time being, took out brand new sheets and quilt covers from the closet, spread them out, went into the bathroom to wash up, then lay on the bed, playing games on his mobile phone. After losing several games in a row, Qin Huai was so angry that he almost crushed his phone, gnashing his teeth and cursing his teammates. Whenever Qin Huai finds a bad teammate around, he he will definitely make sure he doesn't see the sun rising tomorrow. It's not a good night to get points. Qin Huai took a few sips of water, slowly calmed himself down, and then fell asleep. An hour later, he tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Sometimes it twisted into an S shape, sometimes into a B shape, and finally just lay down like a character. Soon, he silently picked up his phone and logged into the game again. Just one game. Once you win, you can go to bed. 4 hours later. 3 o'clock in the morning. Qin Huai closed his bloodshot eyes in pain. Tired, destroy it. After the anger subsided, fatigue quietly came over me. Qin Huai finally fell into a deep sleep. In a daze, I heard a sound. He didn't open his eyes, but the sound of high heels tapping on the ground came into his ears. The steps are light, and it is obvious that the owner of the high heels has a tall and well-proportioned figure. Soon after, there was the sound of the door opening. The motor roared, gradually moving farther and farther away, and then disappeared. Qin Huai opened one eye and checked the time on his phone. 7:30. Lu Qingxue went to the company. Thinking this in his mind, he closed his eyes again. But soon, the sound of slippers tapping was heard, along with soft, pleasant humming. Until the gas stove was turned on in the kitchen and the water boiled. 10 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Qin Huai, with his messy hair, sat up weakly. When I opened the door, I saw Sujuan wearing a white nightgown outside. Her arms were as white as jade lotus roots, and just like her face, there was not a single flaw to be found. Are you still sleepy? I cooked some noodles, want to try out my cooking skills? Sujuan asked with a smile. Qin Huai was stunned. This was the first time a woman knocked on his door and called him to get up for breakfast. For some unknown reason, Qin Huai suddenly felt at home. It's very strange and I'm not used to it, but I can't deny that I'm very moved. Of course I have to try it. I'll go wash up. Qin Huai turned and went to the bathroom. After wiping his face carelessly, Qin Huai looked at his handsome face in the mirror and muttered, "It seems I need to change my schedule." After changing clothes, Qin Huai came to the dining room. There were 2 bowls of steaming noodles on the table. There are some chopped green onions floating on the surface and a fried egg. Qin Huai stirred the noodles with chopsticks, picked up a handful of noodles and started eating. How does it taste? Sujuan asked expectantly. Qin Huai gave a thumbs up and said vaguely, "Delicious. Better than what I cooked." That's strange. Sujuan's eyes turned into crescents when he smiled. After that, the two of them didn't talk anymore and ate breakfast quietly. The atmosphere is peaceful and harmonious, just like that of a newly married couple. After finishing the noodles, Qin Huai wiped his mouth with a tissue and said, "Thank you for breakfast, Sujuan. From now on, I will be your bodyguard." Sujuan wrinkled her nose slightly. It sounds strange. From now on, you can call me Jun like Qingxue does. Okay. Qin Huai didn't shy away and grinned. Jun, are you going out later? Yes. Sujuan turned his head to look at the clock on the wall and said, "I still have to go to school." School? Qin Huai asked in surprise, "Are you still a student?" "Yeah, I'm only a junior, don't I look like one?" "No." Qin Huai shook his head, "I think you look only 18. He. Sujuan covered his mouth and laughed. There is no woman who doesn't like to hear this. Qin Huai quietly moved his eyes downwards and thought to himself, this is at least 36. After breakfast, Sujuan went back to his room and changed into casual clothes. The white t-shirt and tight jeans fully highlight her graceful figure. The high ponytail tied behind her head swings back and forth when she walks, exuding a youthful and energetic aura. Seeing Sujuan coming out, Lao Lin and other bodyguards were ready to take action. Wearing the same black suit, they look very professional, but they will definitely attract attention if they walk out. Sujuan looked reluctant. "Uncle Lin, don't follow me." Lao Lin shook his head and said, "How can that be possible? We just encountered danger the night before yesterday. What if?" Sujuan immediately took Qin Huai's arm and said, "I'm going to school." Who would bring so many bodyguards to school? With Qin Huai protecting me, there will be no danger. The bodyguards looked at Qin Huai with some resentment in their eyes. 10 people were tied together and brutally tortured by Qin Huai, which really made them feel very upset. Qin Huai didn't have time to care about what Lao Lin and others were thinking. He felt the soft touch on his arm and half closed his eyes in comfort. Let's go. Su Huaijuan raised his head slightly and said to Qin Huai. Qin Huai nodded, but said, "Get in the car and wait for me for a while." Good. Su Huaijuan obeyed like a good girlfriend and went to the car. Qin Huai walked towards Lao Lin. The bodyguards immediately became alert. Take it easy. Qin Huai smiled and waved his hand. He turned his head to look at Su Huaijuan, who had already got in the car, and said to Lao Lin, "If you are worried, just follow secretly. This will not make Su Huaijuan feel uncomfortable, and it will not be considered dereliction of duty. If there is any accident, I will be by her side and can delay it until you can arrive." After hearing what Qin Huai said, Lao Lin thought it was right, so he nodded in agreement, and his impression of Qin Huai also improved slightly. Qin Huai sat in the driver's seat, fastened his seat belt, glanced at the youthful and bright Su Huaijuan beside him, smiled at her, stepped lightly on the accelerator, and drove towards Chongqing Art College. Su Huaijuan was obviously in a good mood. He hummed a cheerful tune and stretched out his slender white hand, covering his face at a 45-degree angle. The sunlight shines through her fingers, looking a little gentle. "Junjun, what's your major?" Qin Huai asked casually. Su Huaijuan replied, "I majored in piano." "Great." Qin Huai praised. Su Huaijuan chuckled, and then said, "By the way, Qingxue also graduated from the Art Academy. She is my senior." "Oh? What does she study?" "Dance." "Dancing." A graceful figure inexplicably emerged in Qin Huai's mind, as if she was weak and boneless, dancing gracefully. As he thought about it, his heart couldn't help but feel hot. It seems that there are many postures that can be unlocked. The future is promising. Chapter 21, Being Humiliated with Money. In the chairman's office on the 43rd floor of the Lu Corporation building, Lu Qingxue suddenly felt a chill. It feels like being stared at by something dirty. A female secretary in her 30s handed over a document. "Mr. Lu, please take a look at how to deal with this. It's quite urgent." There was no trace of respect in her tone. Although Lu Qingxue has successfully succeeded as the chairman of the Lu Group, in fact, few people in the entire group take her seriously. To put it bluntly, he is too young and has no outstanding achievements, so he cannot convince the public. Lu Qingxue picked up the materials and took a look, saying, "Compared to the prices in previous years, there are 5 more." His face darkened, and he suddenly shook off my hand, crossed his arms across his chest, and looked down at me condescendingly without saying a word. Seeing Long Feiyu like this, Yu Longqian felt a little sour in his heart and immediately reached out to help Long Feiyu wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. When the audience heard He Han's words, the melancholy on their faces immediately disappeared and a deafening applause rang out. After Luo Yixuan stepped forward to thank the audience, the program continued to be recorded. Chu Tingchuan didn't expect that Mo Liang actually understood his current thoughts so well that he said this to tell him not to worry. However, despite this, Chu Tingchuan was still somewhat concerned about Mo Liang's current situation. After she said that, Xie Qian felt relieved. Although he seemed so calm on the surface, he was actually very nervous. After all, it was not possible for him to fight against the water tribe with his own strength. If he wanted to keep his own power, he could only pray that the people of the water tribe would kill each other here. Early in the morning, He Lianuo jumped out of bed nervously. In fact, he hardly slept that night. Looking at the dark circles under his eyes in the mirror, He Lianuo smiled helplessly, put on a brand new blue cloak over his black clothes, and strode out of the room. Because of the hardness of the mud, if it was allowed to stop solidifying completely, then Lu Qingyu would have no chance of escaping. So, when the mud was about to stop solidifying, Lu Qingyu launched an all-out attack. Amei boxing. Yu Longqian's expression changed when he heard that, and he immediately looked at Long Feiyu in surprise. The move she just made, although seemingly simple, was actually not something that ordinary people could do, and it contained the internal strength of Amei boxing. He hugged Monroe's body, and without caring about the horse under her, he flew directly into the air. Monroe pointed in a direction, and Xie Qian flew over. Therefore, although Chu Chang'er was canonized as the crown prince because he was the eldest son and the queen's biological son, he was able to sit firmly on the throne of the crown prince because of his own abilities. This cannot be denied. David smiled and pointed to the noise at the door, winked at Kathy and said, "It would be nice if there was a store in the school." Fubreagers kicked the ball high and far, and after it fell, it was just controlled by Sahar. After the official finished reciting loudly, there was no other sound on both sides of the river except the sound of the wind and the chirping of insects in the cracks of the rocks. After the words were spoken, the officials began to discuss, and it was obvious that many of them looked anxious. Recently, the sale of box guns has become popular in Bingcheng City. Not only in the black market, but even in the pawn shop, people occasionally bring box guns to exchange for money. The army is now attacking Yunju with all its might. If it suddenly withdraws, wouldn't it be a wasted trip? In another room, in addition to Li Mu, Zhang Yi and Chen Cage, the casting director was also present to do some necessary auxiliary work. Seeing such a scene, it seemed as if there was an indescribable horror hidden inside, and a gloomy atmosphere filled the air. Lu Peng wanted to show his power, but he had to see if he had the strength to do so. After what happened last night, all the soldiers in the city knew that this military supervisor was nothing to be afraid of. The news that Chu Xiu caused chaos in the palace of the great Zhou dynasty and killed the immortals on land swept through the entire world like a hurricane, shocking countless people. Ji Man stood at the door and looked at Wang Jin's expression. It turned out that Wang Jin and Mayor Zhan's son were such good friends. After packing up his things and putting the disgusting things into his bag, Yuan Feng called Luo Wei and said he wanted to go and see Tong Hu's body. The lights of the 9 lamps on the magic circle seemed to be catalyzed, and the flames flew high. Wang Jun was even more terrifying now. He lifted the lid of the coffin and covered the coffin with his hands. No. Yao Huan shook her head. When she heard that the other party was from Star Entertainment Company, she immediately relaxed her guard. I don't think Lu Yiyan would do such a thing. Lu Yiyan is already the young master of Bailong Mountain. He is second only to one man and above 10,000 people. What else does he need to do? Chen Haoren felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles. He stood up quickly, then seemed to want to say something but hesitated. In the end, he said nothing and just walked away. Jiaqing did not return to the countryside that day, but sat in the police station for the whole day. Qin Huai and Officer Wang talked for a long time, and they seemed to be reporting something to their superiors. The first-year students' long-planned attack was ruthlessly blocked by the senior students. It's normal. For the sophomores and juniors, this choice is their last chance this year. There was no conversation along their way after that. When he was led to the room behind the Chenjing Hall, Li Xuanlin asked Rui to wait there while he went in to report. You are still pretending to be stupid and humiliating me here, right? The third prince was very angry and said through gritted teeth. Previously, Fu Wanjing, the true lord of Dongxian in the 6 realms, passed away and his soul was divided into 3 parts. One part was in the body of the casual cultivator Han Ying, one part was in the body of the lowly guest Fu Wanjing, and one part was still in the 6 realms, supporting the demon-subduing formation. Although this statement is a bit exaggerated, it is not difficult to see from here how good Tony is in weapons research and development. The atmosphere in the clinic was a little stagnant. The 2 remaining patients seemed unable to bear the feeling and stood up and left. But it's better this way. She really doesn't want to see Su Jixin's disgusting face at this moment. Prime Minister Han was already in a state of panic. How did the emperor know about this? When the incident happened, the emperor had just arrived at the border. Even the prime minister had just learned about it, but the emperor could still know everything that happened in the city even at the border. Master, don't worry. I have been practicing the skills you left behind very obediently. If you don't believe me, just take a look. As he said this, he picked up a large stone weighing about 300 kilograms that he used for practicing skills. Han Cheng just wanted to see the ability of this young man and whether he was capable of governing an area, even though he was just a young man himself. Among them, these 10,000 soldiers are composed of 3,000 strong archer battalion, 3,000 blue dragon battalion and 4,000 soldiers, and are rotated every 2 years. He ordered Fa Jing to raise 50,000 barbarian soldiers from the southern barbarian counties, with Zhang Yi as the general and Zhang Yi as his deputy, to attack the counties of Jiezhou. How do you know someone is planning a general strike? Jenny raised her head suddenly and stopped talking halfway. You see, we still have a lot of gains, don't we? The old man shrugged, his face as optimistic as ever. Because of Hua Xian and Liu's mother, Gong Sun Yu has been running around the medical club for a long time. He has become familiar with the club's leaders, so he asks them to do everything they can to save Hua Yulan. Chapter 22 Brothers for Life. Before the young man in the pink suit could react, Qin Huai continued, "This fool." "No, brother, when I saw you, I felt that your whole body was glowing. This suit is just right for you, a match made in heaven." "Sorry, I am not well educated, so I may not have used the right idiom. Come, let's sit down and talk. My name is Qin Huai, and I'm Su Huaijuan's newly hired bodyguard." Qin Huai pulled the young man to sit down and said seriously, "I thought I was very handsome, but after seeing you, I realized that there are always people who are better than you and there are always better than you. Forgive my arrogance, please tell me your name, otherwise I will." He leaped and flew away. This teleportation array is indeed a good thing. You know, more than 70% of the elite members of the Shiji sect are here. Under the unified global pace and strong public pressure, the top wealthy people are also vulnerable and have to hand over large amounts of stocks and real estate to offset taxes. The Dean family paid Art 50,000 pennies for military expenses and casualties. The Dean family sent Art 5 strong war horses and saddles. Within half a month the Dean family withdrew all troops and promised not to retaliate against Ait's territory and the army of his subjects. There was just one doubt in her mind. She clearly heard Zhong Yanchen's name just now. Could it be that she heard it wrong? To outsiders who don't know the truth, learning is a very easy thing. However, is learning really easy? So once he really comes, this time, no matter what the cost, I will keep Oni-chan by my side forever and will not allow another Sakura to appear in this world to abandon him. At this time, Zhong Jinghao saw that the name of the store was Hairy Crab Pot, but he also found a car parked in front of the store. This was the car he saw Qin Huai driving away in the hospital before. It seemed that Lin Xinyan and Qin Huai should also be in this store. Art talked to the two men for a long time in the valley, until the farmers finished their work and began to return to the gentle sloped village in the valley for lunch. Art stopped talking to the two men and had a sumptuous lunch prepared by Lawrence's wife in the valley with the farmers and soldiers of the Fortress Guard team. Lin Shichen secretly took out He Ruai's mobile phone, and while observing his movements, tried to dial Zhong Jinghao's number. Unfortunately, she is not a pharmacist and cannot tell what the taste is. But she will never eat bird's nest that doesn't taste right. Fortunately, Feng Weiguo was quite good at this job. He used a kitchen knife to skillfully separate the pig's trotter bones into pieces, and then used a boning knife to scrape off the tendons. After the video was played, it disappeared automatically. Lu Qingxue was heartbroken, and she looked at the fan that had returned to normal without tears. As she looked at it, her spiritual awareness suddenly opened up, and her eyes lit up with excitement. Mu Jianhua had no choice but to stop saying anything. In fact, he was tired from riding in the car and really admired Zhu Qian's physical fitness. He quickly got up and rushed into the bathroom, leaning over the sink and retching. It took him a long time to suppress the fishy and sweet feeling in his throat. When he looked up again, he found that his face was pale. Some people even went to Qingwu's old videos to mock her, asking her to just announce her retirement, saying that her era was over. However, does Zhu Qianghao really have some background? But even if he does, shouldn't he be punished for wantonly destroying lives in the world? Sun Shiliang only felt a chill on his neck but did not feel any pain, but he immediately realized that Zhu Qian had stabbed him in the neck with a knife. Zhang Shuxiang and Chen Jianhe were both furious after hearing what they heard. The couple rolled up their sleeves and came over to argue with Zhu Qian. But Bai Chonglu still did not make any drastic movements. He just held the hilt and the edge of the scabbard and struck directly at the thunders that were following him. At Niu Gao's command, he led 2,000 cavalry and 3,000 infantry to attack the flank of Lu Qingru's camp. Ling Qinger looked at Bai Nan's calculating expression and knew what he was up to again, and couldn't help but roll his eyes. The Jiankang mountain is lush and green. It is the remnant of the Qingcang mountain range to the east. It is over 100 meters high and is located in the northeast of Fengpe City. Because there is no spiritual vein, no immortals have settled here. Only 5 hunters live at the foot of the mountain and live with their backs to the mountain. By then, Wang Hu will surely be able to become a top-notch warrior who is invincible in killing and unparalleled in attacking, just like the king of Chu who is able to carry a tripod and is no match for Li Xuanxiao and Li Yuanbar who are no match for the 4 elephants. Yao Chen, who was lying on the armchair, frowned unconsciously and was extremely confused. A series of sounds of breaking through the air came from the front and disappeared in the night sky without revealing any figures. Judging from their means, they were most likely the other 3 realms Tongxian Jinren in the FA camp. Each of them had extraordinary skills. The sloppy Taoist was hesitating when another voice suddenly sounded. The following days were just as we expected. Although boring, they were also leisurely. As time passed, Huang Xiaoxue and I gradually grew older. Two lion men walked out of the magic circle. One of them wore a crown and held a heavy sword in his hand. It seemed that it was the Lion King Seds. This led to him being poisoned by Xia Luoluo, and Ji Feng was taken to the Great Zhu Kingdom by Xia Luoluo and almost lost his life. Yes, it's her. Manager Bai hadn't expected that she would enter the Lilan Clinic. The hot news circulating recently was nothing more than the great contribution made by the Liu family at the Lilan Clinic. Jamor Mumuyan and Xiao Ju smiled at each other, and under the whispers of the old man in white, they slowly knelt down to worship Bing Chuan, slowly knelt down to worship the people, and then knelt down as husband and wife. Yi Zhizhen was very annoyed at the moment. His subordinates were so inefficient. It would be fine if they made a fool of themselves in front of other people, but they made a fool of themselves in front of the future sixth princess, which really made him angry. While he was scolding his subordinates for their poor performance, he still had to find someone more capable to re-examine the autopsy. Is this a real entity? Being stared at by such a huge monster, Feng Hua finally came back to his senses from his education. However, before one problem was solved, another one arose. Before the court officials could come to a conclusion, something unexpected happened on the other side of the delegation. Yongzheng breathed deeply, his chest rising and falling, as if he was enduring something. About an hour passed, and Hongli also knelt for an hour. The queen is decisive and ruthless, and is capable of ruling the world alone. She is worthy of being taught by the emperor. I am relieved by your swift and decisive actions. It is not a bad thing to hand the world over to you. But I am wondering, what if you are tired? Mu Qing stood up, still holding the bone hairpin in his hand. Chapter 23 Better Than You. Chen Huaidong's eyes flashed when he heard this, and he took out his cell phone and dialed a number, send a computer over right away. After saying that, he hung up the phone and asked Lin Siki, really? Of course it's true. How could I lie to Brother Huaidong? Ling Siki spoke in a coquettish voice, like a green tea girl. Chen Huaidong remained silent. Whether it is true or not, you will know after you watch it. While waiting for the computer to be delivered, Ling Siki had been trying to attract Chen Huaidong's attention in many ways. Deliberately bending over and raising her legs were just the basics. She even performed a very seductive dance on the spot. Chen Huaidong watched quietly, feeling annoyed. Seeing Ling Siki getting closer and closer, he even wanted to kick Ling Siki away. The kingdom of Nando was the empire conquered by his father, and it was filled with his father's hard work, so he had his difficulties. This thing still exists. Elder Chonglu was a little surprised. He had seen this thing before. In the Seven Stars Tower where Patriarch Jiangyi lived, there was also this thing. Patriarch Jiangyi treasured it very much. Elder Chonglu had never taken a serious look at this thing. It was said that Patriarch Jiangyi had placed it in the Tay Lake. And now, Yan Hong was lying on the ground in a pool of blood. Her body was covered with wounds, but the general refused to give up. Although Yun Luo was not isolated from the changes of the times, she was unable to integrate into them. This was the first time. This time, Su Shueruor did not refuse. She just looked at the person in Lin Chuxia's arms reluctantly, and then followed Katie out. Perhaps Shinto is indeed somewhat strange, but it is useless in the face of absolute strength. When this thought emerged in her mind, Pei Yiling began to panic. She was really afraid that what she had gained with all her might would end up causing Rong Shaoqing to die with her. The 8th Sage King nodded. She didn't really care about the status of the Fengshan sword, but she was used to it and it was indeed easy to use. The 8th Sage King took the Fengshan sword and immediately went to the Song Palace to find Song Renzong. Seeing the smile on Meng Qianxing's face, she thought that Meng Qianxing didn't take her seriously at all. In order to intimidate Meng Qianxing, she pretended to be vicious. However, that look was really unconvincing. Neither her face nor her eyes showed that she really wanted to kill someone. It was true that she was nervous and panicked. Qiaoxing smiled slightly and asked, "Do you still remember my classmate Meng Qianxing whom I mentioned to you before?" He asked the two with a smile. Yi Xinghuan ignored him. Dushan turned his gaze to Jiang Yao, who shook his head. Dushan immediately showed a look of delight, his eyes rolling around. One body after another was hit by the terrifying demonic energy and exploded directly, with flesh, blood, bones and skin splattering everywhere. That was the truth that anyone with a little bit of insight could guess, but no one could make it public. People say that the one who laughs at the end laughs the best, so what will be the result of laughing at the beginning? The conclusion is that she will not be able to cry. R. The 8 snake heads directly swallowed the exploded head into their mouths. Then, all 8 heads punched together and attacked Lin Fan and others again. After Qin Jinren and the others behind him had made their defensive preparations, Yu Yingji pointed at the flying sword. The Bio sword made a clear sound and turned into a green rainbow and shot towards the stone gate. R. A shrill scream suddenly rang out, and the skeleton lord was knocked away by a punch, and his blood volume dropped rapidly. When everyone heard what Yichuan said, they knew that Wu Ming might have to fight a desperate battle with Qin Huai. Lao Bing felt helpless when he saw Wu Ming fighting so desperately, but he didn't say anything. He followed Linghu Haoqian and others and quickly hid behind a huge rock. I am willing to. As long as I follow you, I am willing to take any risk. When Qin Fang said this, she looked at Yishao with tenderness in her eyes and her tone was full of the feeling that I could die for you. Thinking of this, Jiang Yao not only did not feel the slightest bit of excitement, but instead felt a little panic in his heart. He turned on his toes and quietly took 2 steps back. Who are you talking about? Gao Xiong was like a chicken with its blood pumped up after hearing this, and he pulled me and asked nervously. In the middle of the night, Gong Sun Yu was suddenly awakened, only to hear bursts of dense thunder rumbling continuously. The air was filled with the tense atmosphere of impending rain, and it was so wet that water could almost be scooped out of the air. After getting off the bus, the man walked to a coin-operated telephone booth, dialed a number, talked for about 2 minutes, then bought a bouquet of carnations at a nearby flower shop and finally walked into the school. Seeing that they were also using the fist-clasping gesture, the young man became even more suspicious. This etiquette was the way people who practiced ancient martial arts greeted each other, and these two used it so naturally. Could they really be masters? Cao Bin calmed down a bit, looked at the battle group, and was so shocked that he couldn't speak. He saw Cao Zhejiang's hands moving up and down, changing into different forms, and his figure was like a ghost, appearing and disappearing, and he actually had the upper hand. Lu Biyu's idea was obviously very good. When he asked his staff to draw up a detailed battle plan, all the counselors praised it. This was not flattery, but praise from their heart. If the enemy really followed Lu Biyu's idea, the outcome of this war would be doomed. These 12 rooms numbered beginning with X are equipped with corresponding sensors to record the number of games and goals, so Yumanman only needs to sit in the massage chair in front of the monitor in the boss room and wait for the results. As soon as he put on the armor, he immediately looked like a majestic warrior. At the same time, the pressure of the ocean current was reduced by half. It was humans who created the 5 element sacred beasts, and it was the guardian of Atlantis who created the 6 chess spirits. So the 5 element sacred beasts came first and then the 6 chess spirits, but because Atlantis's technological level was higher than humans, the 6 chess spirits were more powerful than the 5 elements sacred beasts. At the same time, as he became more and more familiar with the formation, Shenxiai could even learn some of the internal situations of Yi sect through the formation. Thinking of this, she had an evil smile on her lips. Should she seduce Xiao Yi and let her continue to steal? After hearing what Bai Yunfei said and seeing with their own eyes that Bai Yunfei survived, the famous killers here were immediately shocked. As expected of the king of ideals, he even disdains the Holy Grail. Ishtar Rin said lightly, and it was unclear whether this was sarcasm or something else. Chapter 24 2 Messages. Qin Huai knew what Su Huaijuan was thinking as soon as he saw her eyes, and said helplessly, "You think too much, her sexual orientation is normal, just like me, she only likes beautiful women." Why is that? Su Huaijuan was puzzled. Qin Huai said, "Maybe he is stupid and has too much money to spend." Strange, never mind. Su Huaijuan frowned, then waved his hand, turned his head and said to Shen Yu, "Teacher, do you think he is handsome?" Qin Huai blinked. "What's going on?" Shen Yu smiled and nodded, "Your friend is quite handsome, but..." "Teacher, don't worry. He is absolutely reliable. If you need any help, just go to him." Su Huaijuan said, "Look. Could it be that Emperor Chen is really a noble from an alien race, or a monster?" Lu Yu asked in doubt. Fortunately, his son Shuiguoqiang noticed the embarrassment of the crowd, introduced themselves to each other, and then started chatting with everyone enthusiastically. After sitting down, Yoshikawa and several bodyguards retreated with their bodies bent. In fact, Shu Qing was a little puzzled. Is it necessary for a chain restaurant owner to have several lazy bodyguards? Isn't this just too much money to burn? The Jane family is an upper-class wealthy family in Las Vegas, so the engagement banquet was naturally extremely luxurious, the scene layout was top-notch, and the guests were all politicians, businessmen, and socialites from the upper class. Can you lend me some money? I don't have a penny on me and I can't go back to Yangjing. And Yi said a little embarrassedly. It was not until Wei Luo had walked another 200 meters that a donkey cart passed by. Two big men in bamboo armor threw their two bodies onto the donkey cart, shouted, and drove out of the city. The donkey cart went a long way, and the blood from the young man's body was still spilled on the street, and then was trampled under the feet of the crowd. When the group arrived outside the dormitory, a barefoot figure in white clothes rushed out hurriedly. Others in the hall also said they had never heard it, but Xu Guihong's face was very serious, as if it made no difference to her whether she heard the wonderful music or the crowing of chickens or the barking of dogs. The bad nature of the players was undoubtedly revealed at this moment. Once someone took the lead, most people were unwilling to be outdone, fearing that they would be too slow to get anything. Many players who picked up equipment shouted excitedly, further stimulating the majority of players who didn't get anything. Many people even started arguing, and the scene became a mess. But at this moment, a loud explosion suddenly occurred in a corner of the Imperial Palace. The poisonous konjac trembled, and with a puff, it pulled itself up by the roots and ran away. The other impacts are not significant, but pitching the ball from such a long distance is impossible for her brother to do even if Du Yuyu asked her brother to do it. Junior brother Jian, well, it's up to you. Xiao Chen shook his head and chuckled. He felt that there was really no need to have any good feelings towards Luo Tong. Under this power, all his energy was used to resist this strange power. Not to mention using mental power to attack, even if he was distracted for a moment, his mental power would most likely be completely infected by this power, which would then be very troublesome. I also know that it's not that Xin Yu is unwilling to tell me. Maybe she is willing to tell me these things, but she doesn't have the ability to tell me these things. The two were too affectionate. Yuan Xiaoyan's cheeks turned red, and so did Zhu Xiaolian beside her. After looking around, he went to the cashier to exchange 300 yuan of game coins. Dalong also knew that he was not good at playing the fishing machine, so he saw a horse racing machine next to it. This kind of game is just like betting. If you win money, but if you lose, you get nothing. The tip of the sword was surrounded by a blue-white light. When the light faded, it turned out to be the mind shield that Luo Hao had snatched from Ling Huai. Jian Chen. Jin Shiri was shocked to the extreme when he saw Jian Chen. He couldn't imagine that Jian Chen was also on the other side of the starry sky of the immortal ruins. Compared to Hu Yong's 25-centimeter golden horned beetle, Zhou Qian's is obviously not that valuable. An important purpose of education is to provide ordinary people with a path to rise. In the past, sects, nobles, and families controlled the middle class and the country. The most important thing is that they controlled the path to talent. The main reason was that she felt guilty. Although she thought that exchanging leg treatment for cakes was a bargain for the boss, who knew whether the boss would be willing. She was actually forcing the deal. Next, the three of them started looking for herbs together. 10 days passed, and it was hard to say whether their luck was good or bad, because they found 3 kinds of herbs, but the body-tempering herbs required hundreds of kinds at a time, not to mention the quantity. Now they couldn't even find a few kinds. The queen's words were sharp, saying that this time the main purpose was to train those who would be selected to enter the demon-suppressing prison in the future. She also deliberately mentioned that there were several empty positions in the demon-suppressing prison. However, the words of the heavenly demon mother also made Xianqian Qianjun and Qianshu Xingjuan understand that the heavenly demon mother was really a little anxious. Things are almost done now. But saying it is another matter, doing it is another matter. The other 2 groups of Boris have successfully destroyed the remaining players' construction plants and barracks and other buildings. At this time, Yuzixiao's 2 Tanyers have also followed up, throwing C4 at the buildings like crazy. The surviving demon world spiritualists vented all their fear and anger that were hovering on the edge of death in an instant, and frantically used powerful spiritual arts towards the forest. The sky was filled with spiritual arts raining down, and rays of light penetrated the chests of the human soldiers and blew up their bodies. Yi Feifen, who was killed by the Wolfang Legion and was forced back to their base, happened to hear the world announcement. He couldn't help but get excited secretly. He had made a huge profit this time. The person who was speaking was a half-grown boy. His appearance was only average among the many beauties, but his eyes were bright and moving, giving him a kind of spirituality that others did not have, making him stand out. As for the reasons, compared to Meng Fan's monster-like performance in this brawl, they didn't even bother to pay attention. Dao Wanqing, who was busy treating the injured people, was so excited when she heard the appearance of Guanyin that she couldn't help but spit out blood. This charlatan was too boring to come to the disaster area to cheat people. With a thought, the medicine bottle in the air flew directly into his hands. He was not polite and took it out and ate one pill himself, for no other purpose but to save his throat. "No, it's 500,000 renminbi," Shen Henner said. "Very good, someone doesn't have to bother with the conversion anymore. Thank you for your cooperation." The traffic policeman didn't waste any words. He saluted and turned to walk towards the police car. At the end of the entire book of divine and demonic techniques, there is a note: if you don't achieve this skill within 30 days, there will be no hope in your life. What should I do? The most undeceivable thing in the world is the heart. I don't love him, so I can't give him happiness. He loves me who doesn't love him, so he won't be happy either. Can't he see through it? No wonder he called out to stop after hearing me say just one sentence. It seems that he really has a special liking for domestic independent brands. While he was thinking about it, the foreigner had already taken off his clothes and was holding up his briefs. As long as we know Qingyue's identity and why he only remembers her, perhaps we can find out the reason why Qingyu lost her heartbeat. The old man with the hooked nose did not expect Yunlu to be so brave. In addition, Yunlu's divine charm and physical charm were both extremely powerful. For a moment, he was a little flustered, and one of the 5 micro-tornadoes directly hit one place, consuming all his strength. Chapter 25 Dark Night Squad. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Qin Huai arrived at Qin Hotel on Nanbin Road. As soon as I entered the gate, a beautiful receptionist wearing a low-necked cheongsam and with a slim figure came towards me. "Welcome to Qin Hotel, good evening, sir. How many people are there? Do you have a reservation?" The receptionist had a sweet smile on her face and bowed slightly, generously showing Qin Huai a large area of her snow-white and delicate skin. Qin Huai smiled and said, "I booked the room 2 hours ago. The last number on the phone is 7377. Mr. Qin, right? You have reserved the half-moon box. Please follow me." The receptionist made a gesture of invitation and led the way. Qin Hotel is quite famous in Chongqing. When facing a big enemy and collective honor, Yi Shen is willing to fight for honor for economics class too. That fist filled with power was like a giant hammer, crushing all the air in front of it and sweeping forward as if to annihilate everything in front of it. The appearance of the cauldron of creation at this time is really bad news for the demons. Zhang Aisha wanted to beg for mercy, and she looked up at Wang Chen. She felt the desire rising in the other's eyes. She was already feeling self-pity and self-deprecation, so she gritted her teeth. Although she couldn't utter the word, "come on," she stretched out her arms towards Wang Chen and let the sheet slide off her upper body, revealing her proud pair of breasts. His palm technique was so suppressed by the opponent that it could not unleash any power at all, and he was instead defeated step by step. Guodo's figure suddenly disappeared from her sight, and the next moment, he suddenly emerged from a ball of fire burning at Qiu Niang's feet. The red-robed shadow old man said with satisfaction that among the new trialists this time, there were 2S level comprehension, which was already a very good result. The expression of the Golden Peng immortal emperor became more and more gloomy, and the murderous intent in his eyes could no longer be concealed. If it were not for his identity, which might lead to gossips, he would have slapped Ji Yufeng to death with a single blow. Wu Ming hit it for the second time in a row, and immediately the vibrating sound was heard. Wu Ming's eyes were bloodshot and his face turned pale. Could it be that this rice porridge is made from some magic medicine, so that eating a bowl can greatly improve one's cultivation? Mo Qinyer wondered and became curious. However, hearing Uncle Zhang calling me young madam, I felt like I was eating honey, and the sweet feeling spread all the way to my heart. Seeing that Chen Yang found him, Dai Ligay felt relieved and gave orders subconsciously. He thought of how they depended on each other in the water and how she set her bones. At that time, he felt an indescribable sense of security in his heart. Lei Yixing was called to the front of the team again. Kuan Jian personally instructed Lei Yixing on the movements of martial arts, and then asked everyone to imitate Lei Yixing's movements. The person who came was Guang Laoliu, the person Ding Kuan wanted to meet. His real name was Guangbua. He had studied martial arts with Ding Kuan in Wutong sect for 10 years. The two could be considered old friends and old rivals. The man had his back to Ranbai, his figure lost in the mist. One could only see his straight, thin back with clean, distinct lines. 3,000 ink spells were scattered behind him, and his jet black hair set off his cold, pale skin, interwoven with a cold and abstinent color, exuding a coldness like the bright moonlight. Hearing Master Qingxue praising Sun Yuan like this, sect leader Rongbor finally showed a hint of surprise, and his distracted look also changed. But he is not just an ordinary father, he is also the king of a country. He will not give up the decision he has made because of a momentary weakness. Feng Yumor smiled and lifted the quilt up, covering Sichu Yuning's head with it. He grabbed her chin with his left hand and turned her face towards him. He is weak now and won't show anything, but once he has enough strength, I'm afraid he will not be willing to submit. Everyone looked in the direction of their voice and saw Dongfeng Yuang, wearing a suit made of shiny golden fabric and with a slicked back hair, walking into their venue with a breeze. Immediately afterwards, there was a muffled sound, and the huge stone door was actually opened. She closed her eyes and looked for the remaining two people. She opened her eyes in surprise, with a somewhat embarrassed expression on her face. Huchea and his men were also completely dumbfounded. They had heard the old military advisor speak so miraculously that they had regarded him as a god. They thought he had some ingenious plan, but they didn't expect him to surrender. As she was leaning against the soft pillow of the sedan chair and drowsy, bursts of firecrackers rang out in the sky. She sat up straight suddenly and felt the sound of gongs and drums one after another. Nianshin held her waist and walked thinking, until she arrived in front of Duting's pharmacy, she still had no good ideas. What a joke, once a week is too much for me, if it's open every day, I'll be exhausted. I don't make money from this, why should I work so hard? Li Xiaoyao was shocked. Any random skill could attack the entire map and there was no way to avoid it. Ever since he discovered that the potato soup made by Chen Chen could greatly improve attributes in a short period of time, Goblin Slayer has been thinking about the magical potato soup made by Chen Chen. Zhuge Liang's eyeballs fell to the ground because he couldn't believe his eyes. What was the point of doing this? He just threw them on the ground. Xueming no longer wanted to say another word to this brainless good-for-nothing, so he took a step back and spoke in a deep voice before Duan Yu, who was about to yell, could react. After returning to Megatrian, Hal quickly returned to the palace to investigate the attack in the northern, Phlox region. A tense atmosphere instantly spread throughout the palace, and after Linen and Ike met Aisha, Linen and Leo returned to Bluebottom's dormitory. Back to the current situation, Snake has already sensed that Nyan is unusual, but after all, he is also the captain of the Royal Knights. Although his strength is not the strongest in the Knights, he is not weak. As long as he is careful, Snake does not think she can hurt him. Not to mention the Shen level, even if it is the Chen level, no, as long as it is below her, it is impossible to show her strength in one word. Yi Luo also looked at the young city lord, not understanding why the young city lord appeared here. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was going on? Why did the original body suddenly stop? The forbidden area on the top of the mountain in the backyard of Jinshu Villa has changed a lot. Zhu Xingyun can only follow Yang Lin to his former residence. Looking at Murong Shuahan's expectant eyes, Qin Yang was filled with emotion. He could now feel that Murong Shuahan's body was shaking slightly, and the frequency was very high, so high that it was like the shaking of a car engine. Chapter 26, Dog Licking? There is a hint of heat in the summer night breeze. Qin Huai trotted towards the Phoenix Lake Villa area, sweating slightly, feeling quite refreshed. But soon, he became unhappy. The glaring car lights were getting closer and closer, and Qin Huai saw a red Nova Series convertible coupe slowly passing by. The person sitting in the driver's seat was Lu Qingxue. She clearly saw Qin Huai, but ignored him, as if he were a stranger on the street. When passing Qin Huai, the coupe slowed down suddenly. She turned her head to talk to the man in a suit sitting in the passenger seat. The smile on her face was so bright, like a sunflower. Qin Huai stopped and looked at Lu Qingxue and the man wearing glasses. Another great cultivator. Everyone felt a sense of unreality. Did this count as winning 5 million? They actually met two great cultivators in a row. Lin Feng looked at the time. The get out of class would end in more than 10 minutes. He didn't have time to chat with Zhu Xiaoyu, so no matter how unreasonable she was, he treated and bandaged her wound seriously. Although she said not to mess around, her tone was full of seduction and teasing. Yi Xian was already angry but couldn't vent it, and now he was even more itchy, not caring about the brother-sister relationship between them. Bian Luoyu was indeed very angry at Lu Wuxuan's obvious expression of disgust, and even murderous intent appeared on his face. But why could he see the ring on this phone? Lin Feng fell into deep thought. Young man, it's okay to be arrogant, but you have to consider the occasion and who you are facing. Old Master Yi was a little annoyed when he saw Sakia's indifferent look. At this moment, Yi Qingxi burst into tears in Yi Qingyao's arms. Over the past 20 years, the pain of losing her son, the pain of breaking up with her family, and the pain of being a widow, all burst out at this moment. Li Ruonan was moved not because Bai Jie had reached a level that she could take seriously, but because Bai Jie's growth was truly astonishing. She did not think that Lin Feng had any extraordinary talent as a professor. The surface of these skeletons had begun to turn yellow, and there was a serious smell of decay. When Zhao Fan accidentally stepped on the head of a skeleton, the head instantly shattered and turned into white powder. It was extremely corrupted. It was obvious that they had been dead for many years. After saying the 3 words, "good," he suddenly stood up. His hunched figure suddenly became tall and majestic, and the aura in his body was like the surging Yangtze River. Xiahou Yudao's coffin was taken care of by Yu Qianquan, and it was still decorated with flowers and incense sticks, but for her, it was the deepest pain in her heart. She thought that she would feel as painful as before when she came to pay tribute to her brother, but today, when she lit the incense and burned the fire, her mood was much calmer. Jiang Qingxue feels very proud that she can use her abilities to take care of her parents and make her mother worry-free in her later years. One day at noon, after searching for a whole morning, the 3 found a place sheltered from the wind. After having lunch, they prepared to rest before setting off again. Actually, it's not quite accurate to say that they were shopping. After all, Toker had a childlike personality and wanted to take a look at everything she saw. This is how she developed an indissoluble bond with Kanako bread. When he met Xiahou Yu before, although Xiahou Yu was not polite to him, he was still courteous and well-mannered. But now, he clearly felt Xiahou Yu's neglect. When talking about Hashirama Senju, the person that comes to mind immediately is his karmic enemy, Uchur Madara, whose fate was entangled with that of Indra and Ashura. He had obviously just finished washing up. He was not wearing any clothes but a black bathrobe. His bronze skin was faintly visible and there were still drops of water on his inky short hair, sliding down his sexy body. To be honest, Kayabar Akihiko felt that apart from this goblin who just stood there and waited to be hit, he could not think of any other way to be knocked out by a level 1 rookie. Liang had already been trembling with fear from the argument between the two. He went to Xiao Juan with a pale face and stammered to explain his purpose. Mo Li dodged the ice in his hand by moving sideways, turned his back to him and closed his eyes, but tears were rolling down the corners of his eyes. When did Major Lin come? Why didn't you tell me? It's such a pity that Brother Chu Shi is not here. She spoke coldly, her disdain obvious. So many. Staff Officer Zhang was shocked. How many schools would be needed to accommodate hundreds of thousands of college students? It took Shinrong a long time to see Yor come back. She didn't ask any questions and closed her eyes. In her dream, she saw Xiaochu smiling at her. She looked so charming. Lian Shan and Xingqing were also paying attention to Wu Qingping's every move. Mingyi was naturally aware of Lian Shan's thoughts. He was very cautious about men who were close to Mingyi. It was not necessarily out of jealousy or possessiveness, but more out of genuine concern that Mingyi would suffer a loss or be wronged. Xingqing's attention was a little strange. On her way back, Xing Bingbing heard a sound similar to that of a baby crying in a dark alley. Not knowing what she was feeling, Xing Bingbing walked over. She saw a child, who was about a few months old, lying on the ground with a red face crying. Xing Bingbing was stunned for a moment. Is this an abandoned baby? The old lady was so delighted by the lilac flower pillow given by Ding Jiushi that she instantly gained an appetite. Yosi, she was invited to a concert, so it seemed that she had to go even if she didn't want to. However, she still appeared to be very calm on the surface. After all, she couldn't let him think that she, Shinrong, was a frivolous person. After Hu Yi's persuasion, the crowd reluctantly dispersed and went about their own business. Hu Yi left the village, found a deserted place in the wilderness, and strode into the time-space shuttle door that opened in front of him. Yes, this show has a very high ratings. In addition to the 2 regular guests, Li Rui and Qian Yayer were also invited to participate. Of course, there are several other guests besides them, but I don't know who they are. It seemed that just now Nai Wei stretched out his hand and pointed at Wen Fangxia's stomach, and Wen Fangxia suddenly stopped feeling pain. Okay. That's good. Now he can use his own image to enter Shishin City openly. Nai Wei used his divine eyes to check Yang Qing's physical condition, but still found nothing. Wu Song was very smart this time and didn't need to be reminded. He immediately used both hands to gesture to Pan Jinlian's waist. Late one night, a man in a black robe and pulling a simple snow sled broke into old Ivan's house and changed the family. Therefore, although he was helpless about the unethical mission, he could not really disapprove of it. Chapter 27 Goodbye Yi Jingya. What? Lu Qingxue stared at Su Huaijuan blankly. Su Huaijuan stretched and said with a smile, I think Qin Huai is very good, I like him a little bit. Like him? Lu Qingxue touched Su Huaijuan's forehead. Junjun, you don't have a fever, right? No. Su Huaijuan said seriously, don't you think Qin Huai is different from many men? It's different. He's sloppy, vulgar and shameless. He's definitely a scare. Lu Qingxue said, gritting her teeth. Su Huaijuan shook his head and said, he is a straightforward person. He expresses what he thinks. He is not like those people who are obviously dirty in their hearts but pretend to be. This situation was very frustrating for him. Generally, people who had received a little military training would have a set of prescribed routes when patrolling. The body is the capital of revolution. If you don't maintain sufficient physical and mental strength, then there is no point in talking about escape or counterattack. Yang Chixia has been following Yunsu all these years, practicing diligently in Wujie village, and has never gone anywhere else. Firstly, he has no relatives or friends in this world, and secondly, he is obsessed with practicing. Yunsu opened a door for him, leading to an unprecedented world of immortals and heroes. When he becomes strong enough in the future, he will definitely kill that group of people himself, especially their leader Black Snake. In June, there were already a lot of Russian tourists, but most of them had group meals, and only occasionally did someone visit our place. In order to make Dongguan believe, the second brother had the intention of testing them again, and they really proved it. Dongguan heard that the male prisoner was not shocked, but looked at them vigilantly, and even agreed to it when his grandfather made the request. Ji Ping swung the sword in his hand into a sword flower, cutting through the illusion. Then he opened his eyes and saw Yunsu there. He felt relieved immediately. Thinking about how he had just been besieged by countless ghosts and trapped in the illusion of his inner demons, he felt that it was extremely dangerous. It must be this unfathomable senior who came to the rescue. If anyone dares to enter this room, I will scare him to death, I said with a sneer on my face. The mountain bird was too arrogant. It ignored defense, disaster and death and walked into the simple trap. Guan Jinlin is proficient in Golden Goose Kung Fu, Divine Camel Kick, Whirlwind Iron Fist Dagger and Shadowless Embroidery Needle, but his sword skills are not very good. That's right, it was a torrent, like a torrent bursting its banks, surging in from the depths, with rolling waves and gushing out brilliant colors. It was not real water but a fusion of light and air, stained with an ancient and time-worn divine aura, and with great momentum. Su Jinsi wanted to know more, but Qin Qian suddenly coughed, and the boss didn't want to say anything. My thinking is very clear. In this situation, of course I have to kill the Dark Priest who is the most threatening and has the weakest survivability first, but the problem is how to kill him. Forced killing is impossible, unless I use a blood blade to triple the attack. I can't bet on a 3% chance. Seeing this, Yi Chen took out 2 cotton balls and stuffed them into his ears, because he knew that Li Yuanyang and Yuan Ji, the 2 villains who were the first to refine the elixir, would definitely make fun of him. Why go shopping? I'll accompany you after we see the gifts. After Su Qinghan said this, he picked up Su Ranran. Zhang Yang suddenly remembered the incident of Lu Jingyi being chopped to pieces, so he asked him if he knew which group of people did it. Lu Jingyi tilted his head slightly and thought for a while, and felt that the most likely people were indeed the Yang family in the capital. When asking this question, there was some worry on Dr. Yun's face. It was obvious that she had diagnosed the queen's illness and it was very serious. She was surprised that Su Jinsi had made such a big bet. The strongest guild in China in the future will definitely come from the city of Silver Wings. The birth of a king's guild from the city of kings is a very important event. Okay, thank you uncle and aunt for your help. I have already gone to find Chen Yanqi, and this problem has been temporarily solved. Zhang Yong really didn't dare to go to Shu's house, for fear that she would know that he went to Shu's house without telling her, and would definitely become suspicious. The toad monster was swallowing up the werewolves that were like wooden stakes one by one as if it was having fun, and it didn't even look at the guys on the shore who were attacking him. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. He even imagined in his mind that Su Wanyan was lying in his arms, allowing him to caress her. Jin Taiying has been walking around in his father's office holding meetings, waiting for his father to come back. This meeting is also his last chance to become the chief producer of the new drama. Damn it, he even made up an excuse to bring her food, and casually mentioned getting a room with her, so scared that she kept a huge distance between herself and him. Yusu didn't dare to say anything. He stared at the coach with eyes full of ripples and apology, which made people unable to curse him. Look everyone. Look at my wife. She got an upset stomach from eating in this restaurant. She looks so sick now, the man said loudly. He also didn't expect that Dr. Lu was a foodie, and Li Miu had a firm grasp on Dr. Lu's stomach. Li So-yun thought that she was a novice PD and Li Tang was a novice screenwriter, and they had no appeal to good actors, so it was a bit difficult to pick good actors. But Vera just grabbed Su Lin's arm as if she had grabbed a life-saving straw and started to attack him with her eyes. This question has troubled me for a long time. Before I figure it out, I will just survive. Reality is too cruel, so I will just survive in a world that is not so cruel. Has it been confirmed? Chen Zhigua was talking to the old man before. Hearing this, he couldn't help but get excited. And he took out 4 yellow talismans and placed them at the 4 directions of the foot of the bed. He then took out another yellow talisman from the package, burned it into ashes, and mixed it with rootless water. As an experienced man, Field certainly wouldn't say some things straight away. He would find some topics to slowly ease his guard. Her teammates were invited down one by the dancers. Seeing this situation, they all looked at Lin Xiaoxiao with envy. This boyfriend is really amazing. If anyone gave them such a surprise, they would have no problem getting married. It's a promise, and I think Yi just agreed casually. She might have been sincere at the time, but after a few years, her blank sheet of paper was painted by others. And Yi was almost distracted by her own brain-wrecking thoughts, so she shook her head to make it more normal. The leader of the team tonight was none other than Rebbe. This patrol team was led by him personally, along with a dozen of his trusted men, as they patrolled the city which was thriving even at night. The flower rain was scattering lightly. And Yi restrained his sharp sword intent and waved his long sleeves to gather the petals in the air. Floating to the surface, Zhang Buke spit out the underwater breathing apparatus from his mouth and gasped for breath. The deep dive just now was quite exhausting. He carefully looked at the creature in his hand. It was very large. His palm could not even completely cover its head. It weighed about 3 kilograms. However, just as this palm was about to imprint on Xiao Yang's back, a fire lotus, at some point, gently imprinted on the latter's chest. After finishing everything, Xiao Fei got into the Qin Huai bag and prepared to go to the corner of the heaven to practice. Recently, he absorbed the power of several gods and needed to refine his power and adapt to the improvement of his cultivation.